Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday Night Motorsport, the GSRC, and we're debuting a new series for you here tonight. It is a taste of America for you. It is the NASCAR trucks, and we have got a full server for you tonight. There's people that haven't been able to get in, and we apologize for those that haven't been able to get in and race tonight, but we could not anticipate the immense demand we have had for this series on its first outing as the opener on a Wednesday night. So we're going to have 60 cars for you going around the worldwide technology. Going to have 60 cars going around here for you tonight. Alongside me on the pots and pans and providing co-commentary is Sam Chapman. How are you going, Sam?
Not too bad. It was definitely something I wanted to race tonight, but nevertheless, with 60 people in the server, I figured I may as well give up a slot rather than trying to do too many things at once.
Yeah, I think that was a good call. Because we're gonna have our work cut out for us just to get through the starting grid before the start of the race, and of course, the circuit we're at tonight is Worldwide Technology Raceway.
No.
So apologies, but this is not the not the season for the trucks. Believe it or not, we're not starting at Charlotte Roval and then going to Suzuka. This is for the GT3s. So ignore that. That's not for tonight. But of course, after the trucks, we'll be heading over to one of the staples of the GSRC, the Super 2 and Super 3, which is coming to you live from Willow Springs. So that should be an absolute cracker, and that is sprint racing there tonight. These are your track conditions here today. We've got 29 degrees track temperature, 21 degrees air temperature, absolutely perfect conditions. 17 kilometers an hour wind. They're not really going to feel that, but what they are going to feel throughout this race is their tires starting to go off. For those of you that aren't familiar with oval racing and haven't participated in iRacing, you're going to see some very different racing to what you would normally see in a GSRC broadcast if you're used to road racing. But one thing that is common between the two disciplines of racing is strategy plays an important part. Strategy here tonight, they'll be fine on fuel, but many will want to take new tyres because they will burn through them, particularly if they are not driving cautiously. It's very easy to wear out your rear tyres as they start to slide as you're coming out of the corners. And this is your starting grid for race 1 of the Orbic truck series. Lewis Greathead from Vermilion Esports starts on pole with Adam Hayne alongside him. Row 2 is Lavis and Moyes, and then McLeod and Fitz are on row 3. Bleakley and Leo row 4, with Schultz and Noble at the back of the top 10. Then we have Rehana and Dyke in row 6, with Mookie and Oliver in 13th and 14th. Then we have Howe and Anastakis, Calhoun and Agathos behind them, then Snadden and Kale at the back of the top 20. And that's only third the grid tonight. We've got Bullock and Atkinson, Bodianis and Coleman, Pavlovich and Turner, Duffy and Stride, Green and Frank in the top 30. Behind them, occupying slots 31 to 40 are Fitzroy Beaumont and Joe Baldwin, Dutch and Heaney, Otto and Butler, Lawler and Knight, Sharp and Barker. Then 41 to 50 are Adam Lavis, Haycock, Coach, Zamora, Foster Cousins, Edwards, Tyman, Nommenson and Jordison. And last but not least, 51 to 60 is May, Fever, Kearns, Ginley, McNamara, Franklin, Nealon Bread, and at the back of the grid, Sam Chapman's not racing. He is in the commentary booth with me. We have Marty Mitchell on row 30. More rows than we normally get cars in a race. This is going to be absolute chaos, but I do hope you'll stick with us for the full 60-lap race, because there should be some cracking racing. We're going to see cars going 3 wide, I'm absolutely certain. We're going to see plenty of large crashes and hopefully a deserving winner come the end of this one.
I'm sure we will. I think whoever wins this one, it's going to be very well deserved, all things considered. It's a massive grid. You certainly will hope you qualified well here, because getting through 59 cars would be a bit of a task. But there's a lot of strategy to play out. There's a lot of tyre management and fuel management and pit stops and potentially yellow flags. We have got Greg Favell in live race control tonight, ready to throw that if need be, which given its first round in the 60 cars, I would not be shocked. Yeah, big night ahead for us here.
So we are getting a little bit of feedback from you, some light tinny noises. so you might want to check out the noise gate. Safety cars leading away, of course. It will be a rolling start as is traditional on an oval, and they will be lining up in 2 rows, and then once the lights go green, we will be racing. They will do only 1 parade lap, so the truck at the head of the field will pull in this lap. And we do have a race control with us tonight, and they can decide to throw a yellow. They will not throw a yellow for every instant like it's normal procedure on an oval, where as soon as the car starts to spin, they just fly the oval because of safety, fly with the yellow because of safety. They will show some discretion here tonight, with the hope being that we can get through to the end of the race without any yellows, because otherwise we'll almost certainly go time certain and try to avoid that. So big pileups will bring out the yellows, but smaller spins, they will try to hold off if they can. And Greg Brooks says it right for me, and let the carnage begin. The lights are on. They will be led away by Lewis straight ahead. He will decide when the throttle goes down, and the throttle has gone down. We've seen cars pulling out of their lanes very, very early there, which generally is frowned upon. But I think they'll get away with it for tonight. It looks like everyone's going to get through turn 1 safely, which is a good start. But what you're going to see is as the tyres start to go, that's where the drama is going to occur. If it is not car-to-car contact, because the rear end of these cars are going to get very, very lively towards once those tyres start to go. Few movers up and down the field. We've got Rayhana's already up 3 places. Justin Howe is up, was up 3 places, but he's falling down the field. Dane Snadden, the beneficiary there, he's gone up 6, and that's somebody going off. I think that will have been a few cars going off. It's absolute chaos on my screen, and there's a huge...
Goodness me, I think that could be a yellow there, potentially. I hope that's yellow. Oh, God, look at that! Oh, they're kissing. It's
Is this a NASCAR or a rugby squad? I don't think we can tell.
Well, a bit of both. You wouldn't usually have this many cars or rugby players in one spot on either. So, yeah. Oh, goodness me. And the trucks are made for it, but they would prefer not to. So, certainly a lot of shuffling up and down the field at the moment.
We are starting to see the field start to take shape after what was an absolutely catastrophic incident on the straight there that blocked 3/4 of the track. It looks like everyone's managed to get away, and we haven't had a yellow, so we're interested to see what brings out a yellow in the end. The big beneficiaries from that were Nick Ferdiadis, who's up 10, Fitzroy Beaumont, who's up 16 places, Andrew Dutch, who's up 17, Liam Haycock is up 21 places, 42nd to 21st. If he wants to win the night, half of his job is already done for 42nd on the grid. Jared Knight is up 16 spots, as is Dale Sharp, and we seem to have had another collision, perhaps involving Colby Cohen. I think he was the slow car that you saw on your screen. And we see a bunch of cars coming into pit lane to get their damage repaired. We've got some cars staying very, very low on the track. Those cars are going slowly and just trying to crawl back to pit lane. You can see all the cars calling into pit lane, and you can see all of the garage teams ready to get to work and repairing bodywork, changing tyres, as that's what we'll be able to do tonight. So cars going side by side there. That seems to be Anastakis and Atkinson going side by side. As we cut over to watch Chris Noble, so he's in 6th place. He's got Julian Mookie behind him, and Lewis Greathead ahead of him. So Lewis Greathead, he's dropped from pole position down to 5th in the opening exchanges of this one, only 3 minutes in. So he'll want to reverse that slide quicker, as quick as he can. But what you will see is they won't mind sitting behind for most of this race, because unlike in a road race, it's very, very easy to make positions and make movement when you need to. Well, I say very easy, everyone's trying to stop you, but it can be done. So you will see cars that are more comfortable giving up a little bit of position as long as you're in the pack they want to be in, and then making moves later in the race, but you want to be in that front pack. What you will see is as the race progresses, some cars will break away and you'll end up with packs. Once you're not getting the tone from the cars ahead, it's very hard for one pack to catch another pack without some sort of something playing havoc. So you want to make sure that you're in the correct pack by the time the music stops, and then in the later stages of the race we're going to the next phase, and those packs will start fighting doggedly, more doggedly than they would at the start. So if the top cars are smart, what they'll do is actually work together a little bit and try and break away. We're just watching Aiden Kale on your screen. He's got Nate Standard on his outside, that's the black and green car, and then behind him is Dave Oliver. So insane. Kale looking to take the inside line there. And there's a slower car on the outside, so they're evidently not going to got a great run out of that one. And they're going to go free wide. That's not going to work. Or it did just about work, only because Jamie Dyke went out wide and left space for the two cars on the inside. So good heads-up driving from all of them as you see him move towards the front of the field. So we're following Bevan Moyes, but it looks like Trent Lavis has just moved to the front. He's got Mitchell McLeod behind him. Bevan Moyes is just falling down there. Bevan Moyes having a bit of contact, and that's not going to do his race any favours. He's going very slow. He seems to have some speed down there.
Absolutely, and it won't be the first time we see that. It's these guys up front, I think, have been pretty good. Obviously, Rahana's made a lot of spots, but we're seeing a massive amount of gains for some of them. Haycock up 25 there that I can see in 17th. But largely racing pretty well at the front. They've got so much traffic to work through though now, like half the field has now been lapped. Now a lot of that would be due to incident or pitting early potentially, if it comes to that. I think we had someone asking if this was a lap time race as well. I believe there is a lap limit. I'd have to check what it is for this one, but I think there is a lap limit and the time is just the absolute cap at the end of it required, but these guys still fighting just sort of in the back end of the top 10, doing well here. Not the easiest track, there's not a whole lot of banking, it is quite a tight turn for an oval track. I was optimistic and thought I might be able to race and broadcast it at the same time, but after doing a few laps and realising how many people there were, we decided against it because it's not super easy, and we're probably seeing that tonight with a bit of the carnage involved. There you go, 60 laps, thank you Ben.
60 laps, that for you. We had 60 trucks at the start, about 59 trucks at the start, so I don't know how many are still running. Looks like we've certainly got quite a few a lap down. Everyone from 29 and down is a lap down according to my timing screen, and we've had at least one retirement, perhaps more. So it's it's very busy out there. One of the things to highlight for those of you that aren't as familiar with oval racing, there's generally two types of ovals. You've got short, well, sort of three, but you've got your short ovals, is one discipline, and then you've got your super speedways. So your super speedways are the ones where it is and you get a very different racing there compared to a short oval. You would classify this, it's not really a true short oval, but it's certainly not a super speedway. So you're seeing the cars that are having to brake a bit, they're certainly getting out of the throttle, and the radius of both corners is very different, so you need to keep track of where you are on the racetrack. It can be easy actually in an oval to lose track a little bit, and end up entering one corner thinking it's a slightly wider corner when it's not, and you can make mistakes very easily there. What you will see is cars experimenting with the low line and the high line. Generally what you'll see is the overtakes will probably be done on the high line, but what you are seeing, and if you look at these cars you can see they're not getting all the way down to the curb a lot of the time, and that's because all the way down to the curb often isn't the optimal. It's certainly not the optimal a lot of the time for saving your tyres, and what will happen is if you do touch that curb it can send you into a spin, so you're better off not engaging with the dangers all the time and running a slightly wider line, and that's yeah.
That's clearly not the shot I was supposed to pick, but this one gives you a bit of an idea of what they're looking at ahead of them here. We're on board with Jamie Dyke. I might just switch to Chris Bleakley because he's in a very close battle here and has for most of the race with Julian Lookie and Chris Noble. But yeah, there's the onboard around this oval. There's not much room for error. They put it right up against the wall. And you'll see as well how they slide out, but I haven't actually been looking too closely at the times because I've been so overwhelmed with how many cars there are out there, but I'd imagine on a track like this they've probably already dropped off a second or maybe in the second and a half on their lap times with the amount that the tyres give up on you. So some of these guys will start looking at making potential pit stops soon.
Yeah, let's just stay on board here. Look at the steering wheel and watch the movement. So he's going to tip it in here, and you're going to see the back end step out a little bit at some point. And he's going to, there you go, there was a bit. So as the back end steps out, you're going to see him sort of turn right and catch the slide. And often they won't turn all the way right if that orange marker at the top is tilted to the point where they're actually turning right. They've definitely got far too much oversteer in there, and they're likely about to have a crash. But what you'll see is they're moving it further right than they want to be, as they're just trying to catch the back end before it becomes too much slow. But as they're doing that, that's burning through, that's giving you a little bit more pace to get it right, but it's burning through those rear tyres, so you're using more rear tyre when you're doing that. So one of the choices the drivers are going to have to make is how much rear tyre do they want to use to tackle. Let's keep this moving, make sure they get tyre life before the end of the stint, and also deciding, of course, when it is that they want to hit and get those fresh boots. If they do want to go for fresh boots, it's one of the things you want to look for, particularly for the more experienced oval racers. They're gonna focus a little bit more on saving their times, and the less experienced ones are going to be a little bit more aggressive. And what we'll find is that will make them slower in the long run, because you just won't have the tyre life for as long as the guys that are keeping it really smooth. But that is much easier said than done. Just because they are doing it doesn't mean that's what they are trying to do necessarily. We can make that mistake when we're broadcasting for other than obvious mistake, assuming that what they're doing is deliberate. These cars are very difficult to get around without the rear end at least coming out a little bit. Okay, it takes a lot of skill to do that well. So you will see, you'll be able to tell the very best, because there'll be less movement on the steering wheel, they'll be a bit smoother. And the other thing you're going to see is when they're following a car, you might see them deliberately getting on a slightly different line. Not wanting to run directly behind the car in front, and that's all to do with just making sure you've got the air hitting your car, so you got a bit of clean space, and you got the downforce, and you see there a bit of bump drafting, which you're also going to see. And it's very safe to do that in these cars. You still need to get it right, but everyone's going to be expecting that to happen to them at some point in this race. So when they're going to have to handle, they're going to have to adjust their entry to the next corner if they have been receiving a bump draft, because of course they will be travelling faster than they would otherwise have been.
Yeah, you have to be quite careful of the bump draft. These can have a bit of a light end. There is quite a bit of downforce over that rear end with the rear spoiler, but yeah, you lose those rears pretty easily. And if you overuse the fronts, you really do want to use the rear on that corner entry and try and get it out. You can lose the fronts as well pretty quickly if you scrub them up. Obviously, no difference in setups for these guys. This is a fixed setup series, so people can just sort of arrive and drive. Probably part of why we've got such a great contingent here. This is a great battle as well. So, just talking about some of the battles we've got on track, because we've sort of been talking about it in a general way because there are just so many things going on. But McLeod and Lavis have pulled away by 1.3 seconds ahead of Great and Rehana, and there's sort of these smaller battles forming now. Quite a big Ford contingent. It's definitely American cars up in that top 10 other than Toyota of Mookie. Yeah, they're doing a pretty good job now. They're all settling in. The other thing, so you've got tyres, but you've also got fuel. So obviously in NASCAR E-Series qualifier the other night, and it was fuel that ended up getting me the race win rather than tyres. It was saving it to the end, and obviously there's a bit of difficulty there. There's ways to lose. It's just streaming. Okay, are we not streaming the iRacing thing? Oh, anyway, but
yeah, you go fix that. I'll speak for a while.
Go for it.
Also have a look, because it might be related, but I haven't got any sound on the Discord screen.
No, so you shouldn't. But...
Anyway, what we're watching on screen right now is Lewis Greyhead, and he is chasing Trent Lavis ahead of him. That's not Trent Lavis, the car immediately ahead. This is a battle pack from further down the field, and he's going to have a fun time trying to get through there. You can see him just getting held up there by this traffic. Absolutely nuts. And if you're in that traffic, in an oval, the etiquette is different to in a road course. You don't need to get out of the way, because it's really hard to do it at an oval. It's really hard to do it safely. It is on the car coming through to pick their way through the traffic. The traffic does not have to do a thing. They should maintain the line and be predictable. Other than that, it is much closer to say the etiquette in an endurance race when you've got multi-classes and you're overtaking a slower class. The slower class car, they just drive their normal race. They don't fight the faster car coming through, but they also don't have to get out the throttle. They don't have to pull over. They don't have to get off the line. That actually the best thing for them to do is just stay on the racing line and let the faster guy do the work, and that's exactly what it is like in the ovals. And getting through lap traffic can make a huge difference. If you've been watching the IndyCar this year, you'll have seen races won and lost based on how good they are getting through traffic. if you're watching it closely, you'll notice that Scott McLaughlin, favourite Kiwi, he would be doing would have done better on the ovals if he'd been able to overtake the traffic. He's done fantastically, but he's still able to witness his game. He's overtaken traffic when he is out the front, and we have got our first yellow flag of the session for one of the incidents that is out there currently. So the cars will be forming up in line again, and we'll get another rolling start. We are 26 laps into this 60-lap race. It looks like we won't be going to time, so even though the time is there on your screen as 50 minutes, we shouldn't need all of that time.
Yeah, the idea is for us not to use all that time. That's sort of the way it's supposed to work. Because we always run 2 series a night, we sort of have a little bit of a difficulty when it comes to NASCAR as far as the automated yellows are concerned, because they can sort of keep throwing yellows and really extend the length of the race. And for those drivers that want to race both series, we've got the supercars coming up next, which will be another massive race with supercars at Willow Springs. We're broadcasting the Super2s tonight, so the first split in the sprint races there. But you'll see now everyone's coming into pit. This is perfect timing for them, really. They're on lap 26 of 60, I think we said. So this probably gets their compulsory pit stop out the way, but means that they're going to have to be pretty careful on tyres. Some of these guys, maybe towards the back, might re-pit again. There will be I assume, a lucky dog. Now, there'll be many unlucky dogs, though, as well, Liam, because the lapped cars go down to 23rd at this point, which is just... yeah, that means we've got, what, 35 that have been lapped. A lot of those would have been, potentially due to incidents. Some of them may have pitted already and will be making their way through this now that they've already pitted, and that they may not need to pit again. So they might actually make this up. It could be a competition caution. I don't believe this would be. With 60 cars in the server, I'll be surprised if competition cautions are really required to keep the racing interesting. But
there's definitely a couple of incidents just before the yellow flag was thrown, so I think it was due to them. And I suspect the massive incident at the start only didn't throw a yellow flag because it was so close to the start, so they wanted to try and let the race continue if they could. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, there's no competition cautions in this. They are all more genuine cautions for instance on the track.
So it seems like there's a lot of cars still going past, so I don't know whether or not they're letting all the lapped cars through, or whether it's there's an implication with the pits. I've been caught out by these rules before. Thank you, Grant. The broadcast is shouldn't Grant in our chat tonight, so it's good to see you in there as well. And let me know if there's any sound issues or broadcast issues I could do with the training. I wasn't expecting to have to deal with 60 cars tonight, so we'll see where this gets us. But yeah, so there's clearly a lot of cars overtaking and getting their lap back by the looks, which is great. Brings this race back into form, back into action for those guys. But yeah, this will be. It'll be very interesting to see another start here, won't it, Liam?
It is going to be very interesting. I'm also intrigued to see just how far the snake stretches around the circuit. Will they get a case of the snake eating itself? I don't think it'll be quite that much, but it's going to be a hefty chunk of the track by the time all of these cars are in single file. I suspect well over half the track for sure. What we do know is that the best driver so far has been Mitchell McLeod. He is in first place. He's up 4 spots from his starting position of 5th. He's got Lewis Greyhead behind him in 2nd. And the biggest movers on the grid are Aidan Cale, who's up 16 spots into 4th. Nick Fardiadis, who's up 14 into 9th. Lachlan Frank, who's up 18th into 12th. And Russ Green, who's up 15 into 14th. And the biggest mover is, I believe, Mark McNamara, who is up 32 spots from 55th to 23rd Imagine being up 33 spots and not being in the top 20. That's the job the guys at the back of the field have had for them tonight. And of those at the back of the field, it is Mark McNamara and Gary Cousins who have done the best job. With Gary Cousins up a very respectable 28 positions.
Yep. So I don't know what will be until we go back live again. This does seem to be a relatively long caution, but that's probably unsurprising. They still seem to be shuffling themselves about. Car's going to...
two lines now, so I think we'll be going pretty soon, perhaps even in the next lap.
Yep, I'd say so. I'd say so. They're forming up now. So if we have a look, we've still got lap traffic back until 26. Dale Sharp's the last car on the lead lap at this point. Ashley are in the pits, so I'm not sure where you'll come out. But if we have a look at... Yeah, see, they're still shuffling. Gosh. So who we've got up front, so Mitch McLeod, who's been very solid all night. Lewis Greathead doing a great job there. Jackson Rehana, Aiden Cale and Chris Noble make up the top 5. Dan Snadden, Chris Bleakley, Nick Fodiatis, Jamie Dyke, Dave Oliver make up the 10. They're shuffling there on your screen just because they're side by side. But that's your top 10 there. Trent Lavis has dropped to 12th, so clearly something happened to Trent at some point. I haven't actually got around to looking back through the extensive log of incidents as of yet.
It might be something we have to look back on while we're performing any interviews with any drivers that come in.
I would say so.
The conclusion of this race. Because it looks like we're about to go racing because safety car is in, the green flag is out, and we are getting back up to racing speeds from Mitch McLeod and Lewis Greathead leading the rest of the field away as the rest of the field, the back of them, still coming around the final corner. Such is the length of this two-bodied snake that we've got here, and it is arriving around as these drivers have one hell of a time out here at Worldwide Technology Raceway on Wednesday Night Motorsport. The GSRC, proudly brought to you by Orbic Australia. Mitch McLeod getting a good lead, a half-second lead out there at the front over Lewis Greathead, who is under attack from Jackson Rehana and Chris Bleakley. And look at that healthy lead he's got already. Look how close those cars are getting to the wall. I think more than one has indeed scraped that wall as they come out of the final corner, but not willing to give up any speed because they want to make moves. They want to make it now. And Dane Snadden is one of those eager drivers as he throws it up the inside of Jamie Dyke. He's not quite got ahead at the moment. Jamie Dyke is just there outside of your screen. There he is pulling back ahead as he gets the draft from the car ahead that Dane Snadden was denied from being on a slightly lower line. He takes a low line here. He's going to get himself some nice clean air as everybody else goes more around, more through the centre of the corner. And then they duck low, which is just going to take the air off his car. Going to get that back end out a little bit. It means he's not able to carry quite as much speed off the corner as he otherwise would have been able to. But it looks like he's falling a little bit behind Jamie Dyke here as we switch now to Dimitri Agafos, who's looking to make a move on Petar Pavlovich. He's going to go down the inside again. That seems to be a common trait of the cars, trying to make the overtake. No one being brave enough to try and go around the outside at the moment. I suspect they may have realised that it just doesn't have the pace at the moment to get you out there. And also what you will notice is that as the track state evolves, the outside line will, in particular, will get more and more fraught with danger, and it'll just pull your car out wide as you get off the rubbered-in tarmac towards the middle and inside lines. Or usually referred to as the low line in over racing, to be fair. Agafos, yeah, just sitting behind for now. Not looking like he's always getting a good run out here, though. Look at how much he closed on the rear bumper. Oh, Pavlovich is going to be able to draw that thing from memory before the end of this one. Pulls out early to make his intentions known that he's going to go for the inside. Does go for a dive. Has he got enough momentum? Might upset the car, but it's handling it okay. But Pavlovich getting a really good run, and it actually looks like he might be able to make an attack on Lachlan Frank ahead of him, and no, decides he's going to sit behind. Probably wasn't sure he had the clearance on his inside to be able to maintain that momentum, so instead just throws out the throttle a little bit and sticks behind Lachlan Frank. As we cut back over to the battle at the front of the field, we can see Chris Noble, the white and blue AlphaTauri liveried car, making a move on Bleakley, and that's a move for 4th place, and that is move done. And next in his visor will be Lewis Greathead. So he'll try and get a better run out of here. Lewis Greathead keeping the car nice and composed through there. Jackson Rehana is the car that is now starting to challenge Mitch McLeod for the lead, just to the left of your screen. And looks like they've not got it quite right there. And Lewis Greyhead able to make up a heap of ground on the top two, turning in this into a four-way battle at the front with Aiden Kale and Chris Beakley doing battle just behind this group, and they're not going to want to get detached, so the two are going to have to sort this out between them so they can make sure that they keep up with the cars ahead. Otherwise, if is all they're going to be fighting for the remaining laps of this one, with 24 laps to go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's these guys are fighting pretty hard. You saw immediately they started setting fastest laps on fresh tyres. It's a bit the tyre differential is much more stark than in road classes, where often your pace shines the tyre wear around an oval. When you're doing within a tenth or two of a second, the ability for that tyre to grip is just a major part of what can happen here. Now, these guys up front, they seem to have largely sorted themselves out. They're settling in to a certain extent. Probably this view actually doesn't give the amount of laps we are through, so I might actually switch back to the other one. But yeah, so we're on lap 38, so 22 to go. We don't know whether or not there will be any other cautions to be thrown. That will definitely play a part in people's mind as to whether or not they expect that. We've got this great battle here for second place. Rayhana and Greathead side by side. Looks like Rayhana has the run on the outside there. McLeod is building a small gap, but not much, and we see here he checks up a little bit, and he's about to start once again encountering probably what he's encountered quite a lot tonight of lapped traffic. So that's going to start playing a role once again. One thing with lap traffic in NASCAR, if they're not that different on pace, it may be a chance for you to save a little bit of tyre, a little bit of fuel here and there. If that is in your strategy guide for the night, if you maybe under-fueled a little bit, but you probably didn't, given you were under yellows and there's not too much reason to. Matt Namara as well, up 38 spots now, up to 17th. Sort of incredible effort from him.
Yeah, and it's a fixed setup as well, so fuel strategy won't come into it tonight. They should have plenty of fuel to get to the end, is my understanding, and it'll all have the same fuel level regardless. Aiden Kale, the biggest mover in the top 10 at the moment. He's up 15 spots from 20th to 5th, so he's having a spectacular race, and he's trying to make it 4th as he attacks Chris Noble up ahead. We're just looking now from the blimp at Perry Aristarchus as he launches an attack on Mark McNamara, and it looks like he's going to go down to the inside here, go down to the low line, and he's going to hope to maintain that momentum, and that'll carry him through ahead of Mark McNamara. But Manora carrying good speed on that wide line keeps the momentum going, and that's going to be enough for him to remain ahead of Aristarchus, at least until the next corner. And Aristarchus indeed tucks in behind and gives up the low line, not fancying it around here. So deciding that discretion is the better part of valor here. As we cut back towards the front of the field, this is Jamie Dyke. He's in a Bleakley and Snadden sandwich, with Bleakley being the top piece of bread there, a bit detached from the top 5 now. So I was talking about the two battling for 5th and 6th. That's dissipated. 5th has managed to stay with the front group, but 6th has not, and is now the lead of the second group. But at 1.2 seconds, he's still got a hope of catching the cars ahead if he can find a bit of pace, and if he doesn't come under attack from Jamie Dyke, who is right behind him, perhaps getting a little bit antsy in his because he wants to get through and make sure that they don't become too far detached from the group ahead. As we watch Lavis making a move, lovely, plenty of speed there. He'll wash up a bit, but he'll wash up ahead of Nick Ferdialis, and he should be able to maintain that spot. Next on the kill list for Lavis is Dane Snadden in 8th place, and that will be Lavis starting to regress back towards where he started. He is down six spots after starting from 3rd, meaning he is of course in 9th position and currently occupying the penultimate position in the top 10.
Absolutely. So I'm just switching forward to this front
Towery livery, and behind him is Aiden Kale. Aiden Kale driving for Vermilion Motorsports, getting himself down on the low line, trying to get past Chris Noble. Hasn't carried enough momentum to put himself alongside his Alpha Racing team. his Alpha Racing team companion there. As we just saw one of the back markers going into the field. Sorry, that was what that pause was. I was quickly looking at the timing screen to try and determine whether it was the leader or not. But it was not, so we continue on with Aiden Kale. And you can just see the amount of tactics that is involved with making an overtake here. It's not as simple as it looks. And you can see them trying to figure out, they're trying, oh, can I get enough momentum on the inside? No, I'm not carrying enough momentum through. What if I go a bit wider and then cut back the inside so I'm on the low line for the next corner? No, that's not working. You can see them trying subtle variations of the line to try and find a path that not only allows them to maintain the momentum, but maintain the momentum without being on a collision course with the car ahead. Often what you'll see though is as these tyres get worn out, the better drivers are going to find it easier to make their way forward. It's going to be interesting to see what that reveals. But that looked like a good run for Kale there. Not going to be enough to get him past Noble, but might be enough to launch him alongside into the wider radius of our two corners here at Worldwide Technology Centre. As Lewis Greyhead tries to get ahead of Jackson Rayhana, nothing doing there, he will sit behind. So you can see in the top 5, the positions have been very, very static for a little while now. And this is these drivers all trying to feel each other out, figure out where they've got the pace and how they're going to make a maneuver once it gets to crunch time. But we've got a little while to crunch time with 13 laps remaining in this race. So it's not squeaky bum time yet, but it is getting towards that. And Dane Snadden has become a high-profile victim. He's had some sort of incident, and he's fallen down back to 21st after running in the top 10. I believe he was ahead of Trent Lavis. So Lavis finds himself in 8th place now. Hopefully it wasn't contact. But yeah, not great for Snadden with only a few laps remaining. He's found himself unstuck in his truck. And Aiden Kale has just got past Chris Noble while they're side by side. Chris Noble would like to disagree with what I just said and turn me into a liar. Indeed, he will, as he's got enough momentum on the outside. Can he maintain it around the corner though? He's running the high line. Like I said, that's the more dangerous line. Very easy to wash up into the wall. He's holding it well so far. That should give him more momentum than Aiden Kale. He's come out of the corner ahead. Will Aiden Kale fall in behind? Yes, he will. So Chris Noble turns me into a liar and maintains 4th position. And currently has the best lap of the race with a 33.541, which he got recently.
Yeah, he does, but these guys got to be careful.
He had to get out of throttle to avoid hitting the wall, and that's given Aiden Kale a brilliant run down the straightaway. It just retains the inside line, and I think what we see is Chris Noble perhaps tucking underneath him as they come out of this corner. Yes, that's indeed what we're going to see. So advantage Kale with 11 laps remaining.
It's advantage Kale, but not advantage to these two.
What this
these guys have lost the top 3.
It has detached them from the lead group. So we had a group of 5 for a while. It is now a group of 3 with these two in an almighty tussle behind them. The advantage for these two is that it's unlikely they're gonna, whilst it's unlikely they're gonna make that gap across the remaining 10 laps without some sort of incident or something help them out. They are in the correct spot. If the front 3 do come upon traffic and do have a bit of an incident, they will have enough time to react and potentially get through cleanly. And I would not bet against that, as fantastically as everybody has been driving, for us to have so few incidents in this race, at least towards the front of the field. At the end of the race is when everything gets the most sketchy.
Yeah, and that it will especially get sketchy if there is another
longer
car.
in a second stint as well, because they stopped at around lap 26. Then they had a few laps behind the caution, but it's going to be about a 30-lap stint by the time they finished, and they only did 25 laps really on the first tyre. So these tyres are going to get older at the end of this race than they ever have been on this track, and the track condition will have evolved, so you're going to have more grip on the racing line but less grip off it, so any small mistakes will be magnified at this point in the race. Dave Oliver looking to stay underneath Julian Mookie. I think Mookie's got enough momentum, yeah, and he actually makes an aggressive maneuver in front of Dave Oliver, and Dave Oliver does well there to adjust and get on the brakes enough not to run into the front of Mookie. But Mookie, playing a dangerous game there, wanted to really assert his authority on Dave Oliver. Completely legitimate tactic, absolutely nothing wrong with it, but I bet Dave Oliver would have appreciated it. And you often hear about that in over racing in the NASCARs. Drivers talking about you need drivers to be your friends. You don't want to make an enemy of everyone by going out and being overly aggressive. And I think Mookie comes from the former camp of, you know what, I don't care if you don't like me because I am ahead. And at the end of the day, that has put him into the top 10 and left Dave Oliver in 11th. But he goes wide there, does Mookie. Dave Oliver's got a good run out of there. Mookie immediately goes a little bit defensive, chops down a little bit, but not completely. So Oliver will have the low line if he wants it. Goes for the low line. And interesting, you see the car ahead of them. I believe it's Nick Fodiardis there. He effectively could decide which car behind him he wanted to give dirty air there. I don't think it would have been, he would have to be looking in his mirrors, but if you've got a teammate or someone you like behind you, that is something you can do. If you're the car ahead, you can pick which line you're going to provide the dirty air and almost decide who comes out of the corner ahead. As we cut on board now, reverse Green, that's a battle pack ahead of him of Mookie, Oliver and Fodiardis that we were just watching. Green getting a good run here. He's not going to have enough momentum to get alongside before the corner, but he launches it into the corner. It's going to be on the brakes, deeper into the corner. Hopefully he can keep it down there. He's done that absolutely beautifully, and that will get in the position. Oh, not quite. Not quite. Thought it would, but it does not. So it's Russ Green trying to get past Julian Mookie. Wasn't able to on that occasion, despite what looked like a brave lunge. And he's going to try and get alongside here. He's going to wash up. Or just gets out of it enough. And Mookie, again, chops in front of him and maintains the position.
Yeah, so
5 laps to go. This is the final countdown for this race. Who will be victorious at the moment? McLeod's got a commanding 1.2 second lead. But the other podium positions are well up for grabs. With Rayhana, Greyhead and Kale all in that battle. Rayhana at the moment at the lead of it, and that's Kale ducking down beneath some traffic. He's going to try and use that to get to the get beneath Rayhana, and isn't able to do it. Rayhana's driven a very, very good race. He's been in the top 3, I think, pretty much the entirety of the race. Once he got there, he did start in 10th, so he is up in 11th. Apologies, so he's up 9 spots from his starting position. Aiden Kale having a better race, so he's up 16 and into 4th position. Greathead will not be appreciating this. He was on pole. He's down in 3rd. Never feels good if you don't finish first when you start on pole. So he's going to look to try and fix that in the remaining 3 laps, but he's not going to have the time to catch McLeod, who should be able to cruise to victory if he doesn't encounter any particularly robust traffic. Kale looks like he's a little bit too detached from Rahana and Greathead to insert himself into this battle, but he'll be hoping that the 2 ahead slow each other down on the final 2 laps of this one, so he can swarm in and Bradbury a podium finish out of this one. That's a bit harsh, actually. He's not at the back of the field. It's very much not a Bradbury. It's a George Russell inheriting a victory after the 2 ahead of him crashed a bit earlier on in the season. That's what it would be. That's a better analogy. Anyway, back to the racing we've got on hand. You can just see Rayhana and Greyhead every single corner. Greyhead is taking a different line to Rayhana. Does not want to be stuck behind his air and wants to have the opportunity to try and get alongside, try and upset Rayhana, try and force him off the line, off his preferred line. Just do something to try and get past him. But at the moment, Rayhana has been strong and sturdy like the Hadrian Wall, and he is holding on for what would be a fantastic 2nd place at the moment for Summit Sim Sports. Oh, it doesn't get that quite right. Greyhead tries to get underneath. No, he has to come out of it to make sure he doesn't wash up into Rayhana. Really good driving there from Greyhead, keeping it clean. Would be very easy to have eyes bigger than your appetite, to have an appetite bigger than your. To have an appetite that doesn't match your eyes there, and go for a move that wasn't on, and just wash up into the car on the outside and knock them out. And it's one of those things, you know that if you get the contact right, door by door rubbing shouldn't hurt them too much, but in the middle of the corner, it's a very, very dangerous game to play. As we come on to the final lap of the race, they have taken the white flag. This is it. It's now a nothing. 2 more big opportunities to try and get a move done. Rayhana continues to defend. Kale has caught up to Greathead and will be absolutely desperate to get past here, but he's going to have a hard time doing it with only 1 corner remaining, and Mitchell McLeod is going to take out the first of our truck racing series on Wednesday nights at the GSRC. It promises to be a fantastic addition to the schedule, and Mitchell McLeod becomes the first winner in this brand new series for the GSRC. Jackson Rayhana will take 2nd place, and Lewis Greyhead will take the final podium position. Behind them, we have Kale in 4th, Trent Lavis in 5th, Chris Noble in 6th, Chris Bleakley in 7th, Jamie Dyke in 8th, Dave Oliver in 9th, and Nick Fodiardis clings on to the top 10 from 21st on the grid.
Wow, that was quite something. Jeez.
I think we can agree that was a rip-roaring success.
Oh, I think so. Outside...
Excellent job to everybody in the server tonight. It's never easy with that many cars on track, but the racing looked, for the most part, like it was fairly clean. Looks like most incidents, other than that unfortunate one at the start, were reserved to only a few cars rather than taking out half the field, which is what I definitely feared coming into this might be the case. So congratulations to everybody involved. There'll be a lot of drivers here that don't do much oval racing, and they have acquitted themselves spectacularly here tonight.
I sure have.
And now,
can you hear me,
wait
lad?
for the drivers to tuck the cars into bed, and then get themselves into our Discord. So we're going to have a chat with some of the main protagonists here. And no, Sam, I cannot hear you speaking. If you are wondering, because I've realised you've been very quiet for quite a while now.
That's good, because I think the audience might be able to. But maybe just check your mic thing.
While we wait for Sam to fix his mic and for those drivers to get in, why don't we run through the entirety of the finishing grid for you here as we understand it. Mitch McLeod takes the victory with Jackson Rahane in second and Grethead in third. Then it's Kale in fourth, Lavis in fifth, Noble in sixth, Bleakley in seventh, Dyke in eighth, and Oliver in ninth. Then, oh, can you get that back on the screen? There we go. And then we have Fodialis in 10th, Muki in 11th, Agafos in 12th, Coleman in 13th, Pavlovich in 14th, Green in 15th, Anastakis in 16th, McNamara in 17th, Cousins in 18th, Howe in 19th, and Sam Stride in 20th. And taking home 12 points for his efforts. So going to be a lot of drivers not getting any points here tonight. Dane Snadden takes 21st with Dale Sharp in 22nd there, the last of your runners that finished on the lead lap. Then we have Atkinson, Frank, and Cowham taking the final points on offer. Everybody else did not get a point, and you can see their finishing positions on your screen. You're going to say my voice by not reading out 60 names yet again. And instead, we're going to bring you the first of our interviews with our drivers, with Nick Fodialis being the first in. So he'll be the first to have his voice heard on the brand new Orbic Truck Series stream. Nick, up 13 spots, 23rd to 10th. Fantastic result.
Yeah, thanks, Liam. Thank you for doing the broadcast, and thank you to Chapo as well.
I have trouble because I can't hear anybody else. I can see.
That's all right, Liam. I'll jump in. So yes, wonderful job, Nick. Getting in the top 10 of a top 60. That's quite something. How was it out there for you tonight?
Yeah, thanks, Chapo. It was hectic. There was cars going left, right, and centre. And it was all about it's, you know, as you know, Friday nights is about a fuel race. This was about a tyre race. So just trying to keep the tyre underneath you and make your way to the front. And I think I did a pretty good job on that one.
Yes, no, I think you did. So where were you on the grid? Sorry, remind me. It's it was a long grid to remember. Yeah, yeah, wow.
20-something. It was. I was fretting because I was in the middle of the field, and as you know, big fields like this, a lot of dumb stuff happens. But as a team, the whole Bailey Ladders team did quite well, as far as I can tell.
No, they did seem to. There was certainly... How did you find out there? Did you have teammates that you were playing around with and in comms? That seems to be a big part of oval racing and can sort of make it quite a bit more fun if you've got a few guys out there.
Yeah, we had pretty much about 80% of our complement of our team in there. Some guys coming out of long breaks and the like having a go. So, yeah, we were well represented this time through. Trent got in a little bit of trouble. He's made his way back to 5th. I got past with Dave Oliver on the second last lap. That was one of my mistakes. Joe wasn't having the best of times, but look here, I said to him, just get your head down and do some fast laps and try and enjoy it. And yeah, it was overall I enjoyed myself. It was a bit of dodging cars at the start, but overall I really enjoyed that one.
No, that's good. So, well, do you think we're going to get these sort of numbers every week? Because it wasn't necessarily a series we thought we might have to look at doing splits for, but
yeah, we'll see. I mean, places like Bristol Motor Speedway or Indy Raceway Park are probably not going to be good with 60 cars. So I think Joe's already talking about maybe changing some of those tracks, but we'll see. I'd love to keep Bristol, but with 60 cars, it's going to be, by the time the leader starts, and if it's single file, you'll be the back of the line already. The road courses, they'll be just as per normal, like we used to do on a Friday, but yeah, it's going to be interesting with the full grid. I heard some people couldn't get in as well, so we'll see what happens.
Yes, yeah, I think we will see what happens. It's it could be quite difficult with a full grid, especially on all those tracks, and it does create a lot of drama, particularly around a place like Bristol. But well done tonight. We've got a few people in the box, and we'll have to swap over to supercars. Are you doing supercars?
No, I'm only doing the early ones this time through.
Oh, okay, no problem. Well,
thank you again, Chapo, for broadcasting. Thank you to Liam, and well done to Mitch McLeod. I haven't seen you in a long time, so yeah, thanks guys, appreciate it.
Cheers. Well, that's actually probably a good segue to Mitch McLeod, our race winner. Mitch, I think I've raced you in 86s before, and you've been pretty quick. Didn't know your oval skills as well, but well managed race tonight. How'd you find it out there? Or have I got you on mute?
Hey, you might have to set up push to talk, bud.
There we go. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, I used to get into the ovals a fair bit back in the day, so yeah, trying to rekindle some old skills. And when I heard you guys were running a series, I thought I'd jump in and have a crack.
No, that's good. So, how'd you find? Obviously, with just so many cars on track, you're up the 20 in for most of the race. How'd you find it with lap traffic and all that sort of thing? Did that impact the race at all, or was it all sort of pretty good on that front?
It was not too bad. I think race control at one said caution at one point, so I think a couple of the front guys actually backed off and thought it was a safety car. So I gained a couple then. I was sort of backed off as well, thinking, oh, is it one of those safety cars that is an actual iRacing safety car? So I seen that the other guys would keep going. I was like, all right, copy, we'll get going. And after that, just trying to manage the traffic. It was pretty full on. It was interesting. I think it was good. Something different rather than just having an incident and another caution. It was something different, and really enjoyed that. It was good fun.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. It's we had to sort of go away from the iRacing cautions because it can extend out the times too long. But I'm glad it was enjoyable out there. How'd you find the pace of the other guys behind you? You had Rayhana and Greathead and Aiden Cale and those sort of guys right up you, but you were able to pull away towards the end there. Was that due to strategy? Was it due to tyres, do you think? Because you sort of were pushing a hole in the air for a good chunk of that second half of the race.
Yeah, well, once I realised that it wasn't iRacing cautions, I thought, yep, okay, make sure you look after the tyres, because we just did under half race distance before the first safety car, or the only safety car, and I was like, all right, when they get close, I'll try and hold them off, but I was keeping the tyre management in mind and just trying to make sure that I had something, and whatever I was doing, I could keep doing for the rest of the stint. So, yeah, a couple of times Lewis got close and then Jackson got past him. I was hoping they would fight a little bit harder so I could get more of a gap, but that didn't work. But then Jackson got close a few times and I thought, oh no, this is not looking good. But yeah, luckily he used up his tyres a bit more than I did and was able to pull away in the end. A bit of lap traffic helped as well with me, but luckily enough it all worked out. Yeah,
good stuff. So with the fuel stuff as well, so I didn't actually do any fuel testing in the end. How far would you have been able to get on one tank? Obviously not the whole race, I don't believe, but was it tight to get to lap 26 at all, or 34 I think was the final stint, or was that pretty straightforward?
To be honest, I didn't look at how many laps I had left on my tank. I was looking to see if I needed to add any fuel, and it was saying 4.6 litres or something, and the minimum you can add is 6.2 or something like that. So I was like, all right, if there's no safety cars, you're going to have to pit. If there's a safety car, you probably won't need to take fuel, but I took the minimum anyway just to be safe, just in case. So, yeah, I don't think it was too tight. If there was no cautions, it would have been interesting.
Yeah, okay. And then with that tyre drop-off as well, these tracks, they do tend to have quite a tyre drop-off. How did you find that towards the end of the stint?
It's really weird. I enjoyed how the car handled early on, and I could drive it how I wanted to drive it. But then once it got more into the stint, I like a car that rotates on the nose a bit. So it was really hard to not try and push too hard and outdo myself trying to make it do what I want, and just sort of drive to the car and what the setup was. So yeah, it's just another challenge. It was pretty fun to try and figure it all out on the floor.
Great. All right. Well, anyone else you want to shout out or anything before we head over to Jackson or Lobesy?
No, just thanks heaps for the broadcast guys, and also GSRC for putting it all on. It's huge numbers tonight, so it's good to see. Hopefully it keeps going the same way.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. Well, congratulations. It's a great start to the season in a massive field, and we'll hope to see you for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Might jump to you, Lobesy. So you were right up there at the front for a good chunk of it. I didn't actually see what happened to you because you dropped back a little bit there. Do you want to walk us through the race?
Yeah, had a pretty good start and managed to get to the lead with a bit of incident management, trying to avoid some of the incidents that happened, and got lucky there with a couple. Unlucky with another one, which is what sort of caught me out. There was a couple of guys dicing 3 wide into turn 1, and I came off low and just buzzed it up a little bit too much, trying to keep a tighter line with the guy hanging around the outside of the lap traffic, and managed to do a classic old OC into the fence. And as I did that, came back onto the back straight, the safety car came out, so I got relatively lucky in that regard with a limping car, and they managed to come out. I think it was P11 or so when I came out of the pits, or P12. And they managed to look after the tyres in that last stint and crawl back up to 5th, which I was pretty happy about.
Yeah, okay. How do you find, so this track probably not the easiest track to get a pass done. How do you find sort of trying to make your way back up through a few spots there?
I changed my technique through turns 1 and 2 and managed to set the car up with a good run to get a mega run down the back straight, and set up the boys into turn 3, and then just try and hold a tight line through 3. As the tyres went off, they couldn't hang around the outside as easy, so it seemed to work pretty well for me.
Yeah, no, that's good. And you took fuel in that as well in your stop then, I assume?
Just chucked 6 litres in it, whatever the first click was, but I didn't need it. I had about 10 litres at the end, so. But I think it might have helped the car get more planted, so the balance was quite nice towards the end there. I think I was about half a second quicker than the leaders there those last 7 or 8 laps without traffic, so car felt good in that last little stint. Just a shame I was a little bit too far down to do anything about it.
Oh, well, good stuff. Anyone else you want to shout out to any sponsors you want to thank before we jump over to Jackson?
As always, the Bailey Ladders Aussie Racer boys, always keeping me company. Joe for having the volume up too high on his microphone in the chat to blow my ears off. But no, it was a really good race and really good fun, and awesome racing there with the 2 Chris's, the Chris I, towards the end there. That was good fun. So shout out to those boys as well.
You sure Joe didn't just have his microphone at normal volume and was shouting?
Oh, a bit of both. I think he's eating it a bit as well, so might have been a bit of that going. That was all good.
All right, great. Well, thanks for that. Are you jumping in the supercars as well, or is this you for tonight?
No, that's me, mate. I'm going to go sit on the couch and watch the rest of the night and cheer on the Aussie boys.
Wonderful. All right, well, I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, boss.
Jackson Rayana, perennial achiever in a number of categories. Obviously, good. Where'd you end up in the SFL last night? I don't know because I was wobbling around the back after a bad start. But we'll focus on tonight. You got a good, strong second in the end, I believe. Fighting a lot with Mitch up front before he pulled away a little bit, and the 2 Viminion boys behind. How was your race?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Yeah, the SFLs was a bit of one to forget for me last night. But
Tell me about
it. I'm glad I had one. I'm glad I had one, a strong one tonight. It was good fun. I've quietly been working on my oval stuff in the background, just between SFLs and the high downforce stuff, and I've been loving it. I'm gonna have shot at the Scops Enduros later on this year. So I'm thinking, well, I need to start driving stuff that's undertired and overpowered. So what better place to start than a bit of ovals? These trucks, they're definitely fit the description. And I did Bristol. I did the Bristol officials a few weeks ago, and I loved it. I just fell in love with oval racing. So give me some more of this stuff, please.
Yeah, no, it was certainly something to watch with 60 cars in the server, and Bristol will definitely be something. That's that's probably a nice little precursor. How did you find the Bristol officials? I did a few laps around them, and it's a tricky track. It's great when you get it right, but God, it's easy to go wrong.
Oh, it's chaotic. It's just, what everything that's, exciting and good about motorsport, it's just, heaps and heaps of chaos and 800 metres of tarmac, which, like this is a bit longer, obviously this place, but definitely felt, gave it the Bristol vibe tonight with the amount of cars that were on track. So, it was just great fun. I had an awesome time. Mitch definitely gave me a lesson in the end there on tyre saving, but that's something I'll work on as the season goes, and something I'll definitely stick to is this series.
Yeah, so well, if you want to do, you're looking at doing Scops, are you going to be jumping in the supercars after this as well, or is this more your little dipping the toe in for later?
Not tonight. I'm planning to do most of the V8 rounds, but Willow Springs I don't own yet, and I'm not a huge fan of, so I might give tonight a skip. But once we see some more relevant tracks over the season, I'll definitely have a crack.
I would not call Willow Springs irrelevant. It's an amazing track. I will not hear any Willow Springs slander in this chat. But nevertheless, I think, that's going to be quite something to watch in the supercars anyway. But
Gran Turismo track.
Yeah, well, as a Gran Turismo skilled driver, it makes sense, right? So, when it comes to that strategy, so were you tyre saving at all? What were the tyres that went as well? Were you pushing too far on the fronts, or were you getting rid of the rears a bit too heavy?
Look, over the course of the stint, I definitely did try to tyre save. I was very conscious of what I was doing. How much throttle I was using, how much brake I was using the brake to sort of balance the nose of the car, get the nose of the car in. I think just toward the end of the stint, I lit up the right rear a little bit too much, and that's what really killed my run. But, I think definitely I improved from the first stint. Like the first stint, I just fell right off the cliff, I felt like, where this stint I could sort of hang on just a little, like they were just about to fall off, but they weren't quite there yet, so... just working on my use of probably the right rear tyre, I think will do me some good over the course of the season. But I'm really happy. I'm learning, I'm learning something new every race in these cars, and I'm definitely by no means an oval expert, but I'm looking to definitely do a lot more oval racing and in some high powered under-tired stuff, as I said before.
Well, that's good to hear. Good to hear you're in for the rest of the season as well. Looks like it could be a massive season ahead. Before I jump over, we've got a couple more in the booth as well, and I'll have to get to supercars at some point. So, anyone else need to thank or shout out or say hello to in who's watching at home?
Shout out to the Summit boys, and huge shout out also to John Simpson, Flash Graphics. Did me an awesome, cool, funky new livery tonight. He will try and appear, I believe, for the rest of the season. He's going to try and do as many rounds as he can. So it'll be good to have a buddy, a slingshot partner, someone who can, I can work with. Definitely excited for that. But just keen for the season to come.
Really good start to the season, and I'll see you out for the rest of the season. I'll see you lapping me in SFLs.
I'll see you later, mate. Thank you.
Have a good one. Joe, how are you, mate? It's
chap, hey.
Now, with that many cars out there, I don't actually know if I saw your car at any point tonight. So I'm actually going to need a bit of a rundown from you. How'd you find it? What happened? Was there bits and pieces of mischief for you, or what happened for you?
there was a couple of bits of mischief. Unfortunately, we. Someone followed.
Yeah, someone followed. I've got Adam's set up now, and it shouts at me every time someone follows, which is it's good to see so many people following, but it takes you off guard when it comes through.
It does, yeah. No, so I was fast in practice. I think I was top 5 in practice, and I overcooked my qualifying. I think I ended up 31st or second. And off the initial start, I was having a pretty good run, but that first bit of chaos was right. That first incident on lap 2, there was I just squeezed through it, but I had damage. I got squeezed against the wall. I can't think who it was now, but it was just, there was nothing. He was just trying to avoid contact and whatever. So I carried damage up, and I decided, if I pit now and whatever, we should be right. And I pitted, and I was literally 10 feet from the end of pit lane when the yellow got thrown. So what that essentially did was put me to the back of the bus. So then the only cars that I was in front of was people that pitted behind me. So I think on the restart, I was still a lap down in about 32nd or something. And I think I passed about 8 or 9 cars. And then there was another incident on the back straight, which was unsighted for me and Jack, someone who was in there. I couldn't see the incident, and Jack pulled left to miss it, and we both ended up bouncing off the wall along the back straight. So just both racing incidents, but it ended up putting me 2 laps down, and which was, with a damaged car basically the whole race, which, I mean, I was only 0.4, 0.5 of a second slower than the leaders towards the end of the race with a damaged car. So I'll take, a little bit of pace with a damaged car, as a bit of a highlight, but no points. Unfortunately, finished out of the points. But I reckon Matto's probably watching. I want to say hi to Pete Matts in the background. He's the brainchild behind this. And I've got to say, I wasn't sceptical, but I certainly wasn't as optimistic as we were about getting almost 60 cars into the server. And wow, what a great turnout. I mean, it's only round 1. I'm sure we'll keep the majority of the guys. We'll still have some new blokes coming in, but fantastic. Like, this is wildly above my expectations. So hopefully the series can continue on. We're probably going to revisit some of the tracks that we're going to run. Next week we were penned in for Willow Springs. I think we're going to have to rethink that, because 60 cars on Willow Springs, it's not going to happen. Nobody will have a good time. So but unfortunately, mate, it's my race was a little bit average, but I'll take the fact that I had a little bit of pace in my back pocket for the next time we get to an oval, which is I love running ovals in NASCAR style stuff. So thank you, big hooroo to Mr. Matson, and we'll go from strength to strength with this series, I'm sure.
Yeah, big shout out to Matto. I'm sure he would have loved to be out there tonight as well, but just unfortunately could not make it, given he's had a few medical things going on. But massive thanks to him and Orbic as well. So Orbic are the sponsor tonight for the trucks. They're the reason that we're able to put this broadcast together and get this broadcast out with 60 cars on it. So massive thanks to him. Thanks to everyone involved. So, well, that's good to hear from you, Joe. I'll get to Liam Haycock before we go, and then I better duck into the supercar server because we're getting close.
No worries at all. Thank you, guys.
Cheers, Joe. Liam Haycock. So, once again, with so many cars out there, I didn't see too much of your race. Do you want to give me a quick rundown?
Started quite far back. Managed to work my way through due to the lap 1 incident, and it was going well until I went to make my first stop and spun it into the pit lane, missing my box and getting a penalty.
Yes, that sounds like me in the NASCAR E-Series qualifying the other night. I think we got 3 black flags in total through all that. It's what's the pit entry like here? Some of these pit entries can be quite difficult. Was it more just a mistake, or is it actually quite a tricky pit entry?
It was definitely a mistake. I went into first too soon because I realized I'd overshot. But the actual pit entry, I think, is reasonably simple after I ran it last season in IndyCar.
Yeah, okay. Have you done any much oval before? Have you done much time in the trucks or NASCARs or anything like that, or is this pretty new to you, as it is, probably for quite a few members within our club?
I've done a couple ARCA races, but mainly just the IndyCar from last season and making this track itself a trampoline in that car.
Yeah, okay. And then I guess as well, if you're at that point, you're probably being lapped by leaders and that sort of thing. How'd you find sort of looking in the rearview mirror as to, there's a million trucks and who's who in the zoo, trying to work that out?
Never really happened, to be honest. I was just staying on pace with the people around me and just kept going, hoping for another caution to get back onto the lead lap and hopefully score some points, but never happened, sadly.
Well, that's unfortunate for you, but plenty more races in the season to come. I wonder how many will be ovals and how many will be road, now that we've seen the amount of demand that we've got for oval racing here. Before we jump over and we do a bit of a mid-broadcast break so that I can set up for supercars and maybe get something quickly to eat. Anyone else you want to shout out? Anyone watching at home? Any sponsors?
Mainly just Eduardo, who's actually gonna keep going with this series throughout the season. I'll stop after next week. Possibly this will be my only race, depending on the track. But he should be going well for the rest of the season. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Well, congratulations for making it through. It's just a fair effort to make it to the end in one of these, I think, tonight. So, congrats, and we'll see you out there later in the season.
Yep. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, it's now time for us to break off as we prepare for Supercars. Supercars at Willow Springs tonight. Interesting circuit for them. There'll be a lot of probably a lot of wear on that outside left tyre that they'll have to manage, and a very, very wide track and flowing track. I'm a massive fan, but I know some others have questions about it. Liam, have I got you back yet for a sign-off?
You do have me back for a sign-off.
Wonderful. Well.
Alright. So, a fantastic first race for the new Orbic Truck Series, a roaring success on round 1. Hopefully, most of the grid will be back for round 2 in a week's time. But before then, we've got more action coming up for you tonight as we go to Willow Springs for the Supercars, which should be an absolute banger. So join us in a few minutes' time. everyone, for the second round of action from Wednesday Night Motorsport here at the GSRC. We are, of course, back to one of the club staples, the Super 2 Challenge. And it is the Super 2s tonight, not the affectionately known Super 3s, which is the bottom split. We're bringing you the top split, the best of the best of what the GSRC has to offer for supercars. And we join just as the cars are taking the grid for Heat 1 of 2 races here tonight. Wilby Cannon starts on pole with Aidan Cale alongside him. Then it's Angus Lawford and Jake Slade on the second row, with Maguire and Rogers on the third. Campbell and Angus are in 7th and 8th, with Lavis and Nicole at the back of the top 10. From 11th, we have Mark Horton, with Matt Whitaker alongside him. On row 7 is Dyke and Brooks, with Christensen and Varga right behind them. Row 9 is Coleman and Nixon, with Broad and Kirby 19th and 20th respectively. And then Joe Baldwin is last but not least on this grid of 21 cars. A nice, much more manageable number than the trucks if you joined us earlier on in the evening, where we had a full server of 60 cars with 59 cars on the track. For those unfamiliar with Willow Springs, it's a very difficult track, very twisty, very turny, lots of opportunities for overtaking and very punishing offline. But we are about to get this race underway, and it's a terrible launch for Wilbur Cannon. Just did not get the car off the line, and Angus Lawford slingshots himself into the lead, and his car lengths ahead before they even get into the first corner, with Jake Slade and Jack Rogers also getting ahead of Kale. Kale dropping down 3 positions, and that's Wilby Cannon, who started on pole. He is at the end of the first corner. He is well on the inside and facing the wrong way, so it's going to be a tough recovery for him. On the plus side, he'll get a second bite of the cherry in the feature race, but for now, it is about getting as many positions as he can, so he can try and get perhaps even into the top 10 to take a benefit from the reverse grid top 10 that we'll have in the 25-minute feature race to come later on tonight. Jack Rogers, you're watching now, he's in 3rd place. He's got Aidan Cale in the black and purple car behind him. Very, very tricky corner. This one here, very, very easy to get wrong. As you just saw, in fact, Jake Slade getting a little bit deeper than most of the other cars, which you would suspect is a little bit of a mistake. And this is, that'll be Mark Horton going side by side with Adam Lavis for 8th and 9th position. Lavis is currently in 8th, but Horton is looking to take that away from him. And you got this really long, almost two apex right-hander at the end of the lap, and Mark Horton just braver there. But Lavis is going to have come at it from a wide line, so he might be able to carry more speed onto the start-finish straight. Mark Horton dips 2 tyres onto the dirt. You can get away with that as long as you're sensible with it. And behind Lavis, we now got Jamie Dyke pulling to the inside and looking to make it free wide into the first corner. Lavis on the inside of a sandwich. He's found himself now fully on the inside of his contact, and he goes round. No, it doesn't quite go round. Manages to stop the car from pointing in the wrong direction, but he's lost a lot of time, and he will drop towards the back of the field.
Gee, yeah, as we expected, fair bit going on here at Willow Springs tonight. There are opportunities to overtake here. It's a wide track. It's relatively unique in that you can sort of go off, you can dip a wheel here and there and exit, and you lose a little bit of time, but not too much if you keep the head. Oh, there's incident back there as well.
With Troy McGuire. Yeah, Troy McGuire being spun around there at the exit of the 5th corner, trying to do quick maths. As Stephen Varga here is in the middle of a battle pack that goes from 11th all the way down to 15th. This is those on the fringes of the top 10. We're not quite inside it at this point. Angus Lawford sits the fastest lap of the race. He's got a 1 second lead over Jake Slade. As we watch, we just cut to Jake Slade now. So behind him is Jack Rogers, and you can see that detachment already at the front of the field with Angus Lawford just piling in the lap times. But it wasn't fastest that time round, with Jack Rogers having fastest lap for a brief moment before Michael Angus stole it from them. So at the moment, this top 5 all running a very, very similar pace, all in the high 1 minute 15s. Everybody else in the 16s or indeed the 17s and 18s. So they are proving themselves to be the class of the field earlier on in this 15-minute sprint race that we've got to kick off the night for you here.
Absolutely. So Lawford out to a pretty solid lead. He's earned himself 1.2 seconds at this point. He'll have to be careful, obviously, not to burn up tyres too much, but it's only a 15-minute race, so they don't need to care too much about that. Michael Angus there with the fastest lap in 5th, so pace under his bonnet. But it is early days. Those fastest laps often just determined by traffic at this point in time. We'll see if this is settled down. This front pack here from 2nd to 7th is probably the key battle pack at this point. You can see just the way this track sort of curves around. Of course, this track, for whatever reason, it's American bitumen, so it's incredibly rough. I don't know why. I think they have square rollers over there when they're doing bitumen, but that creates its own little piece of interest as well. I feel those cars bumping around through this Willow Springs layout. Roger's still gaining time there, but yeah, not gaining too much. They've sort of settled in at this point, Liam.
Yeah, you just saw Jake Slade, Rogers behind Jake Slade there, getting his rear end out on the exit of corner 4 there. I'm making up the corner numbers as I go along. I'll figure them out at some point. And lucky to keep the car pointing in a straight line, particularly because his rear left tyre was on the dirt and the rest of his tyres were on the tarmac. And that's often when things can get really, really dangerous when you've got just one tyre that has a different grip profile to all of the others. It can be very hard to rescue that. Aiden Kale does it properly and gets 2 tyres on the dirt, which actually can be a little bit safer at times. But keeps it pointing in a straight line. And you can do that around here, but it's a case of how much risk do you want to take, how much do you want to push. The good thing is we've paired this track with a 15-minute sprint race, so you can afford to push and take risks because you've only got to last a few laps and you'll complete the whole lap. Roughly going to be a 12-lap race here, and we're already 5 laps in. So probably 12, maybe 13 laps is what we're expecting to see for the end of this one. And you can see a lot of the cars dipping 2 wheels in the dirt at the exit of almost every corner because they're just not willing to give up that exit speed and would rather take that risk. And what you can do as well is you can actually, at some of the corners, you can dip your inside wheels on the dirt or underneath some of the curves, and it can just give you a little bit of extra rotation. So it's something you can do, and as long as you're aware of it, you can actually use it, and it can help you get a little bit of lap time, depending on the car and the track conditions.
Yeah, that turn going, that turn 2, that's certainly given me pace before in certain cars. Aiden Kale gets really locked up there, just trying not to hit the car ahead, and ends up letting through Michael Angus. So that's unfortunate for him. They're still on the back of this pack, but that will have heated up the tyres a little bit. And we just want to see how he exits out of it. Oh, he's gone straight on. Alright, well, there was an own goal there from Michael Angus, so Aiden Kale gets that spot back. Wonderful as well, Liam, to see 4 Holdens in the top 4 positions. So the old Holden name back out in Super 2 still. Obviously, iRacing will be replacing that with the Yank cars of the Chevys soon, but they're still doing the final tweaks on that. I think they'll be out at the end of the year. But this fight for second here, still very much on as well. Big battle in for 10th spot, which will be a reverse top 10, I think, as well. So this is very key. Oh, a bit of argy-bargy there from Matt Whitaker on Tyson Broad. Broad muscled out of that there. Oh no, Broad, sorry, ahead there. My apologies. But then Michael Angus ahead of them, 1.6 seconds. So he's managed to still stay in that top 10. Very important going into that next race where there will be pit implications and that sort of thing as well, Liam.
Yeah, and in that top 10 battle, we've got Will Buchanan, who started on pole. He's down in 15th spot, and he is still, nine, almost 10 seconds off of 10th position. So he's got a hell of a job if he wants to benefit from the reverse grid. I think that may be a stretch too far for him, but we'll see what his pace is like throughout the remainder of this race. Last lap was a 1:16.7, so was significantly faster than a lot of the cars ahead of him and on the pace similar to the leaders, but not quite as fast as Aiden Kale, who was a 1:16.3. And just on that topic of us replacing these with the Gen 3 supercars at some point in the near future, I was going to make a joke that they'll have to rename them the American supercars instead of the Australian supercars, but of course that won't be true because we're getting the Toyota recently announcing that they're joining the supercars grid, which is should be a fantastic addition and great to have. Hopefully 3 manufacturers back in supercars for a while, but we'll see how that pans out in the long run. What we won't have to wait long for is to see who is the victor in this race, because we are over half distance now, 8.5 minutes into a 15-minute race, so we've got 6.5 minutes to go, which will equate to around 3 or 4, probably 4 or 5 laps even. As we're watching Jamie Dyke in 8th place. He's got to be careful because he's got Michael Angus only second behind him, and then Tyson Broad 1.7 seconds behind him, and he's dragging Matt Whitaker alongside him. So he's only a couple of seconds into the top 10 grid at the moment, and the last thing we want to do is fall out of that. So he cannot afford a mistake, and that is the context in which he is running his races. Ryan Campbell goes off ahead and almost trips up Dyke, but Dyke gets past, and now Campbell is going to have to be careful because he's about to lose 8th place. Drop down to 9th, and he's only got 1 car buffer before he ends up on the cut line for pole position in race 2. And there it is. There is the last of those cars in that battle, and you can see there's another couple waiting in the wings. So this race is nowhere near decided who's going to have the advantage going into the feature race yet. What is looking promising though is Angus Lawford out front. He's got 1.7 second gap on Slade, so he's very, very well placed at this point to take home the first victory of the supercars tonight before he looks to turn it into a double from 10th place in the 25-minute feature. Behind him you can see the battle for 3rd place. Aiden Kale looks like he's got acres of pace, looks like he's got the legs on the cars ahead, but at the moment he hasn't shown the racecraft to be able to get ahead. So he just needs to, it seems like he will be able to, if he can find a way past, he'll be able to pull away and be able to challenge perhaps the second and first positions, but he's got to find a way past Jack Rogers. He's got to do it cleanly, so he's going to have to engage his racing brain and just figure out how to make his pace count for something, because at the moment it looks like he's the fastest of these top 4, but he is at the back of this quartet.
Yep, as well. Ryan Campbell probably wants to make back up these positions. This is actually quite a little pack here now from 5th to 11th place. Connor Nixon in pit lane, so I assume something has happened to him. We'll see if we can come to the bottom of that. Qualify relatively far down the order, which is unlike Connor within these vehicles. I think he was a fairly good performer in last season. But yeah, definitely a shout out to Angus Lawford. He's doing an excellent job out front. Probably does help that Hobbo is not in the server tonight, as he, I believe, romped home to the championship last season. Very good performer in these cars, and have a storied history within the GSRC as well. But yeah, a few good names in here tonight, and but Ryan Campbell, he's not one to leave a position on the table, and he's going to make it quite difficult for Michael Angus here, who also had a bit of an issue and dropped down the table. 2 guys with what seems to be quite a lot of pace.
And Michael Angus has gone wide, made it very easy for Ryan Campbell. You can just see, it looks to me like what's happening is that sometimes people are worrying about the car behind and then missing that second apex and just going wide, just trying to carry too much speed. Perhaps they're taking a wider line because they're worried the car might be on their inside because they've been showing it in the window, and then they're just drifting wide. And then once you start drifting wide, it can be very hard to get it stopped and get it turned in for that second apex. So that's changed the equation for the reverse grid top 10. It brings Will Buchanan closer to it. He's only now about 6 seconds off of that position, maybe 7.
Or Horton State.
He's closing in, and if cars keep throwing themselves off the track ahead of him, could open the door for him to have a very, very good feature race. Just needs a bit more luck.
This is the fight for the podium here, sorry Lambs. So Aiden Cale's trying to make it quite difficult for Jack Rogers. These 3 battling for second place. We're at 12 minutes, 12 and a half minutes of a 15-minute race, so only a couple more laps left. Really, well, actually, what times are they doing now? 1:16s? Be borderline.
Jack Rogers goes off track, so he's fallen off from second place. He'll find himself in 4th, and he'll be lucky to hold on to that because he's going to have so little momentum on the straight. I imagine he's going to get gobbled up by the cars in 5th and 6th, and perhaps even further down the field. And there he is, getting gobbled up by Tim Nichols. So he's going to have a nice full stomach going into the feature race, but he does stave off the fiendish attacks from the carnivores behind him of Mark Horton and Jamie Dyke, and Jack Rogers finds himself in 5th place. He'll look to try and turn that into 4th before the end of this one with 2 laps remaining. Angus Lawford remains in the lead, and Jake Slade remained ahead of Aiden Cale in all of that drama.
Yeah, so this pack back here is sort of the, well, not walking wounded, but just guys mostly that have just ended up in the sand on the outside at some points and have found themselves in a little battle pack. So They're fighting that they will definitely want to stay in the top 10. They should be fine to do that because there is a bit of a gap to Broad and Whitaker that are in 9th and 10th. But they'll want to be careful not to make any more errors here. As well, this fight for second does seem to be continuing. Aiden Cale right on the back of Jake Slade. He's wanting that second spot. Angus Lawford, he's managed the race really well, but he's not out to an enormous lead. It's 1.4 seconds. And given that these guys have been fighting a bit...
And that's Tim Nicole going off the track in the background. Apologies to interrupt you there. It's just come off from, I think, 5th position. And he'll be lucky to hold on to the top 10. That's Matt Whitaker behind him in 10th place, and Stephen Varga in 11th is 2 seconds behind these two. So as long as these two don't do anything silly, they should be able to make up for any mistakes they made in this race. In the next race, and Matt Whitaker just getting ahead of Tim Nicole. As we cut back to the battle for the podium spots, 2nd and 3rd. We're on board with 2nd, watching 3rd harry and harass him around the short Willow Springs racetrack, and just try and find the line to get through. He's going to try and get up the inside of the long double right-hander. I'd say the long one, the short one at the top of the hill, and does so. But this is a really dangerous place to be side by side. You've got to be careful here. Gets 2 wheels on the curb, and Jake Slade goes wide, pushes him wide. I think Jake Slade got his 2 inside tyres on the curb a little bit there, and that might have forced him wide. I'm not sure how much was deliberate versus just understeer, if that makes sense. But the result of that is Jake Slade will hold on to 2nd place, assuming he doesn't make a mistake like many have, into the final corner, as we watch Angus Lawford negotiate it absolutely perfectly to take a victory in the sprint race here tonight. Started in 3rd place, finishes in 1st. He leads Jake Slade, who will finish in 2nd, and Aiden Cale, who will take the final spot on the podium. We're watching Jamie Dyke cross the line just behind Mark Horton in 6th and 5th places, respectively. Then Tim Nicole is going to grab the final spot in the reverse grid to give himself pole position for the 25-minute feature race with his stable mate in Quantum Pecky's Racing, Stephen Varga, just missing out.
Yes. Well, rapid race for these supercars, 15 minutes. We've done a few V's races at 15 minutes, but certainly feels like a very quick race for a supercar. But, well, there we go. We've already gone over to the next server, so I'll get the results up for that one. Actually, hold up. There we go. So obviously Angus Lawford, he ended up building up a 2.9 second lead after all the riffraff going on backwards behind him, with Aiden Cale and Jake Slade. Jake's in 2nd, Aiden in 3rd after going side by side. Jake potentially something to answer for there, given there wasn't really room for Aiden on the outside. But we'll see what Race Control has to say about that. Whole bunch of different teams there too. Project 36, Revolutionary Racing, Dominion, Accelerate, Fishy, Twitchy Foot Racing, Trot Bear. So a bunch of different teams in that top 10. But good racing for the first one.
Yeah, it was fantastic racing up and down the field, and pretty well-intentioned racing as well. Didn't see anything too untoward in there, although we can argue about that manoeuvre on the final lap with Aiden Cale being pushed wide. But like I said, I feel like that was accidental rather than deliberate. But
it looked accidental. It's an easy one to do there with that dip and all that sort of thing. But I guess a letter of the law as to how the GSRC manages these sorts of incidents is that inside car has to leave that room for the outside car, and if there wasn't enough room, which I don't know whether there was, then there might be something coming. It wouldn't be serious. Didn't look, it was hard, good racing. Very difficult to go side by side for that period of time. So, congratulations to those guys. Put on a good show.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between pushing someone wide at a traditional overtaking spot and it happening at a spot that's not traditional for overtaking. It's a lot harder to go side by side when it's a corner that you haven't done it going side by side before. So we'll wait and see what the stewards have to think of that one. But hopefully it's okay. And we'll just have a look now at what's coming up for you over the remainder of this season. So next we'll go to Phillip Island. That's a fantastic track with a standard round at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Then we have sprints at Motegi, Enduro at Spa-de-Francorchamps, sprint at Donington, that'll be fun. Then we go to Mugello, one of the best tracks in the world. Motorland Aragon, another fantastic track there, both standard rounds. Then Long Beach Sprint, that will be spectacular. And an Enduro at Le Mans to finish off the season. If you're not going to have an Enduro at Bathurst to finish the season, why not do it at the home of European Enduros, the Circuit de la Sarthe in Le Mans. And here we are to confirm the starting grid for the 25-minute feature race. We have got Tim Nicol on pole with Matt Whitaker in second, then Tyson Broad in third with Ryan Campbell alongside him. Then it's Jamie Dyke and Mark Horton on the third row, Rogers and Cale on the fourth row, and Slade and Lawford on the fifth row by virtue of their first and second place in the sprint. They would have Stephen Varga just missing out on the reverse grid. He'll line up in 11th with Michael Angus alongside him. Then on the next row is Christensen and Buchanan. Levis and Maguire will be behind them, with Brooks and Nixon, then Coleman and Kirby at the back of the top 20. And we are live racing for our second race here tonight, and our final race of the night. Tim Nicol holds on to the lead as they're going 3 wide behind him. Tell a lie, it probably was only 2 wide, just about, but it certainly looked 3 wide from this angle. Jack Rogers had a good start. He's up 2 spots already, and we're following him on screen as he holds the inside line for corner 2. He'll look to maintain that and then perhaps dive up the inside into corner 3. But there's so much going on. It'd be a brave man to cut across the track at any point, as we see a big move from Aidan Cale up the inside. That'll put him around the outside as he goes around the hill. He'll have to hang it out there for a long time if he wants the position. Just about does so, but isn't able to maintain the momentum. But he does have the inside line for this corner. It's a brave move there. Does manage to keep the car to the inside. Does it really well. Does Cale, but doesn't gain a position out of it. And if anything, he's under attack now from Angus Lawford, who he knows got pace as he won the sprint race, and Cale would desperately want to keep him behind. The last thing he wants to do is let those cars that start behind him get past, and then perhaps those get through the traffic before him, because he knows he's got the pace to potentially win this one if he can keep them behind. That is the beauty of a sprint race. You are attacking the cars ahead, but you are usually defending from the cars behind if you're on the top, if you are in the top 10. Field definitely a little bit more spread out here than at the start of the previous race, although Michael Angus is doing what he can to fix that by going side by side with Angus Lawford and Jake Slade, but not able to make the move. There is Angus. Behind him, we're now watching Stephen Vargas. He comes under attack from Will Buchanan. Watch out for Will Buchanan. He did, of course, get pole position here tonight, but a big mistake on lap 1 cost him the sprint race. He wasn't able to recover into the reverse grid position, so look to see what pace he has got. If he can get past some of these cars, you wouldn't bet against him making a strong push into the top 10. As we watch Angus Lawford try to make a push into 8th spot by almost physically pushing Michael Angus ahead of him, and therefore proving that Angus is both a forename and a surname, with 2 cars on the track. As we watch Aidan Cale, he's got a little bit detached from Jamie Dyke ahead of him, only 0.6 of a second, so he's got plenty of time to recover that back, but it doesn't mean that he is not attacking, and he is under attack from Jack Rogers behind him, which is an abnormal position for Aidan Cale to be in so far in the Supercar season, as he's usually on the attack. As behind him, there's a few swapping positions. We're cutting now to Stephen Varga, who has a massive twitch on the exit of turn 1, but manages to get past Jake Slade. And Jake Slade now looking like he might lose 2 for the price of 1 with Will Buchanan up his inside. But Buchanan not able to make the move, get the move done, and he will feed him behind him as they start the track up the hill to the summit, and then make the big U-turn before they plunge back down the hill into the tricky left-hander and start the run to the final corner.
Yeah, so they're fighting pretty hard. There's this pack up front as well, all the way up to first. They're within half a second of each other. Big fight here for 4th place. They're nose to tail. Now these guys, there should be a fuel stop in this one as well. So there will be strategy at play at some point. and how they play it. I've often found at Willow Springs it can be really beneficial to go early if you can get some free space. But look at this, they're 3 wide and almost 4 wide coming down the main straight. As Kale goes to the outside, sees if he can get that outside in, but can't do it. He's blocked off, and they take a little bit of dirt there. But fall back in line. But it's great racing that. These guys certainly aren't worrying about tyres and fuel at this point. They want that position right now.
Yeah, they certainly do, and they're fighting hard to try and earn it, as Aiden Cale finally gets moved on Matt Whitaker, pushing himself up into 5th position. So it tracked behind him for much of the first half of the lap, but manages to make a good move there as they crest the top of the hill and to get past. And now he'll start the chase of Jamie Dyke. He managed to detach himself from that group through the 4 of them all fighting for the first 3 corners. But he has found himself detached from the leading trio by 1.2 seconds, and that leading trio covered by only 0.6 of a second, so it is hell for leather at the front of this one. It will be interesting to see if any of the faster guys towards the back of the field decide they're going to go and pit early to try and get some clean air. I haven't seen anyone take fresh boots so far, as Con Nixon goes off track and drops about 6 positions there further down in the field. Greg Brooks here looking like he's going to go for a move around the outside. That would be brave, and indeed it does not pay off for Greg Brooks. Not able to go around the outside of Lavis there, just tucks in behind him and loses half a second for his troubles.
He does, and this pack up front has started to separate in spots. Like they're super close together in some areas, like these 4, but they've dropped a little bit off the back. But it looks like there's been a bit of a check-up up ahead as well, because they've caught them right back up. They're still all within a second of each other, up until 10th place in Stephen Vargas. So it's definitely all to play for. Ryan Campbell up in 3rd, is just separated a little bit from that top 2. Tyson Broad, is falling back a little bit off Tim Nicol, but still only 7/10ths, and Ryan Campbell giving him a who's who right behind. Jamie Dyke still in there. I'm seeing the times sort of move in and out quite a bit, as I guess Willow Springs being that wide sort of circuit. There are a number of different lines, so you know it looks like you're losing time here and there as Stephen Varga comes into pit lane. So that pit strategy is starting to begin now. I would assume, unless he's had an incident, which I don't believe he has. But he probably just wants to get out of this pack. Not a bad decision, because you can lose so much time around Willow Springs just faffing about with other people, and while the slipstream can be beneficial, if you've got pace, it's not as beneficial as being able to find your own pace up the back.
Yeah, and not just finding your own pace, so that is a benefit. It's also just removing an element of risk. We saw how fierce the fighting has been up and down this grid. It might be best just to remove yourself from that, run your own pace safely, and then have a bit of a rest and get stuck into the battles across the final 5 laps rather than go hell for leather for 20.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the very start, as we're watching Tyson Broad under attack from Ryan Campbell, who's having a very good race. He's up 1 spot from where he started for Dream Motorsports, and yeah, finds himself in a podium position at the moment, chasing Tyson Broad of Drop Bear. And Tyson Broad is a very, very accomplished racer, so he's doing well to hang with him. But doing even better is Tim Nicol, who is leading this one by a relatively healthy 3/4 of a second. It doesn't sound that healthy, but when you see it on screen, it looks like a pretty reasonable lead that he's got there, and he'll be hoping that he can maintain that until the first stops. But the advantage for him is he's got enough of a lead that he's not having to worry about the car behind. He doesn't have to defend, doesn't have to do anything. He can just drive his race, and he knows he is safe as long as he continues to do so and show off the pace that he has shown so far. Finished 10th in race 1, but keeping some really fast drivers behind him so far in race 2. As we watch Tyson Broad having to get defensive there, just hold it up on the apex, make sure Ryan Campbell can't get a run. It'd be hard to get a run out of that corner, given how narrow it is at that section of the track. But what I have to do now is be really cautious as to go through the final 2 turns, because that is where you can launch an attack. You can go on a very different line, and if you don't get the move done in the corner, you can get the move done along the start-finish straight, or at least put yourself in a position to attack into corner 1. And if Ryan Campbell gets through, then you got Jamie Dyke and Aiden Cale right behind, who would love to make it a 2 or 3 for 1 deal.
They sure would, but would they be smarter right now, not fighting and playing a bit of a fuel game, getting them in the pit lane? Aiden Cale clearly is not interested in playing the fuel game. He wants to get past Jamie Dyke right here. He's going to try around the outside. It sometimes works, but usually not from that far back, unless you can somehow keep your nose in it, which usually is cut off, as it is that time. And as you can see, like, once again, they're losing a little bit of that time to the cars ahead. They're not saving any fuel, they're not saving any tyres. So we'll see how this plays out in pit lane. These top 5 are certainly still staying close to each other. Tim Nicol has not been able to pull out a lead. He's back within 6/10 of Tyson Broad behind, so it's absolutely all to play for. Any of these top 5 could definitely take it through, and realistically down a little bit further, depending on how the pit sequence turns out for each of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And given all these cars start with the same amount of fuel, the theoretical optimal strategy is to go long, because you spend more time with less fuel if you go long than if you pit early. You know, you go long, you go from 25 litres, well, just use random numbers, 25 down to 5 litres, back up to 15, whereas if you pit early, you go from 25 to 15, back up to 25, and then down again. So you spend more time with less fuel if you pit later, but the trade-off is when you pit early, you can often get yourself into some clean air.
Oh, massive lock-up for these guys. So I reckon Jamie Dyke could have a penalty there. He was in there fairly quickly. We'll see what happens to his pit lane time, but yeah, I think he could be in a bit of strife here. Slade and Whitaker absolutely having a battle right now. Does look like there's a car chugging behind. There is a car chugging behind. Who's that?
What has happened there? That car is absolutely just belching smoke.
It could be. It could have just blown the engine. He could have done a bad downshift, maybe. That could be...
That would be absolutely brutal. Haven't been able to figure out who that is. Once we know, we'll bring that news to you as we watch Matt Whitaker trying to defend from Jake Slater at the top of the hill. Again, we haven't really seen any successful moves once you get past the initial entry into that right-hander. But then through here, you can make something work if you can get a good run down to the final corner. A few more cars pitting now. Will Buchanan becomes another car that has pitted.
And Liam as well, just looking at those pit times, both Jamie Dyke and Aiden Cale have got speeding and pit lane penalties. They both got a pit time of 50 seconds. So absolutely ruining their race, and it looks, gee, we could have some other offenders here. They could all snooker themselves at this point. We could actually have a real toss-up for the win here, because these guys, I think, all locked up again. I reckon Rain might be fine, and Rogers behind looks like he's okay. But Tyson may be in strife here once again. We'll see where they come out in relation to some of our other pitters. The leading pit car is Angus Lawford, our race 1 winner. So he was making some positions, but wasn't absolutely cutting through the field. But by having an 11-second pit lane time instead of a 50-second pit lane time, that makes a very, very big difference. It looks like Tyson, Rain, Jack, they've all got away with it. So they're all out. They're all out within a reasonable period of time. Tyson Broad actually had a brilliant pit lane sequence. He is out 1.8 seconds to the good on Rain Campbell. Jack Rogers absolutely hustling Rain now. But Angus Lawford another 2.5 seconds behind. So we'll see what Angus Lawford can do with his pace. These mistakes going into pit lane have absolutely shaken up the field. Pit lane penalties for Jamie Dyke, Aiden Cale and Stephen Varga all speeding in pit lane. What's happening here? Is he going to slow down? As we see our 2 leaders coming into pits as well, so it seems like that sequence is almost complete now. Adam Lavis looks like he's going to continue along on fuel. They wouldn't be hitting fuel yet. They're only 30 minutes into the race. It was a 15-minute last race. They got the same fuel tank. Clearly Adam's decided that he's better off continuing along for now, which actually I think is probably the best option, given that there could be a bit of a riffraff back there, and seeing whether he can just do some decent clean laps. But for the pit effective lead, it is Tyson Broad out by almost 3 seconds. Tim Nicol has dropped off a fair way off the back of Broad. Angus Lawford, though, just sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1:15.18, which is quite quick compared to the rest of these guys, and now is right on the back of Rogers and Campbell, and we'll be looking to see whether he can start catching Broad as well. Broad's he's a fair way out ahead, so maybe Nickel is probably the best option there for up to second place for Angus Lawford, but we will see how this plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we saw there is everyone pitting in response to the massive pace of those that pitted slightly earlier. Tyson Broad making the undercut of just a single lap work on Tim Nicol. So everybody tried to do the right thing, tried to respond, tried to keep the cars that pitted early behind them, but it just did not work. The advantage was too big. The strategies did not work out, and Tyson Broad finds himself in the lead of the race, but he is off track according to my screen. It has been for a little while, so I don't know how much longer he's going to be in the lead of this one.
Oh, he's lost heaps of time. He's the final corner problem again. So he's lost heaps of time. He was out by 3.5 seconds, and he's getting swamped by these fellas. They go 3 wide, and oh no. So Ryan Campbell and Jack Rogers go past him either side there. What that has done is create an absolute, once again, a 6-way fight for the lead. Greg Brooks still in the lead of this race, but not in the pit effective lead. And what we're seeing is with this tyre differential, they're making up time very quickly. Whether or not Greg thinks he can do better on his own out ahead, we will see. Offered better just to... Oh! So Rain sort of... that quarter is so easy to catch you out because it's so difficult to work out what the correct line is when you are doing an overtake or being overtaken. It's so easy for a car to be looped there.
I think it was contact there.
There was contact there. There was absolutely contact there.
He was absolutely shepherded off. So it'll be interesting to see what the stewards make of this, make of that one. But it won't matter to Broad right now. He finds himself in Ford, and Rain will be absolutely livid with that if he given it looked like he was indeed forced off the track. So only he will know whether he's going to go off track anyway. But assuming it wasn't, he'll be not happy there as he watches what was a potential podium slip away as he cascades down to 8th position now with Michael Angus just ahead of him for Callum Murray Racing. And it's going to be a hard job for Rain to make it back up from here.
It will, but they're not that far off this next pack that is fighting pretty heavily. So if we swap back to them, this Lawford, Broad and Slade pack, they're right next to each other. Here. Jack Rogers out to 1.5 seconds ahead, and is catching Tim Nicol. So we've got a fight for the lead on our hands too, which we'll catch up if that gets close. Greg Brooks as well. He's lost a couple of seconds in that since we spoke about him last. So I'd imagine he'll look to pit fairly soon, unless he's going for the Hail Mary on a fuel strat that we didn't see coming. But I'd imagine once he sees the leaders in his rearview mirror, he'll call time on that one. Number of off tracks as well. So it looks like Aiden Carr with 11 and Greg Brooks with 10. Greg's just come into pit lane now to cleanse the field. So Tim Nicol taking the lead of the race, just does his fastest lap of the race with a 1:15.9 as well, but Jack Rogers is faster behind at 1:15.7, so expect to see those two bunch up. Tyson Broad's only 1.2 seconds behind with that 3-pack that they've got going there. So if they don't fight too much, massive drift there for Jack Rogers behind. He's burning up those rears trying to catch Tim Nicol ahead. That will not help him. He's smashing those curbs. He wants this win. There is no doubt about it. But he has to be very careful not to bring in Tyson Broad behind, who's leading a lot of this race.
Yeah, and Tyson Broad, of course, recovering after making a mistake that saw him go wide and lose about 3 seconds at least, and collapse back down to 5th or 6th position. So he's done a decent job of recovering back ahead of Lawford and Slade to get himself back into 3rd, but that is not job done at all for him. He's got 7 minutes left to turn the win that he has lost back into reality, and he will back himself to do so. To get a preview, I assume a preview of what some of the driver setups might look like given by their field of view. I think we can pick the people that are on triples. As Jake Slade stalks Lawford ahead of him. No move happening here.
But there's a fight for the lead. Sorry.
there is a fight for the lead, and it is Tim Nicole and Jack Rogers. Jack Rogers made up some great time in corner 1, launched himself into position to really attack into turn 3, not able to make anything happen in 2, and Tim Nicole pushing there, going wide, drifting wide, putting the rear tyre onto the dirt but getting away with it. Jack Rogers taking a much more aggressive line through here, carrying more speed through the top of the hill, but there's nowhere to go once you get up here. You can't go wide, it's far too dangerous. So Jack Rogers doing a smart thing there to sit behind Nicole, and look who it is in 3rd place. It is Tyson Broad, and he thinks, I smell blood in the water, and that blood is stained with the scent of Jack Rogers and Tim Nichols, and I'm going to be in the lead of this race in 5 minutes time when the checkered flag will fall. But it won't be easy, particularly with Rogers and Nicole in their own battles. So that, it's going to hurt them because it's costing time, but the time damage is done. Tyson Broad is there. It will help them because it's going to make them less predictable. It's much harder to overtake someone when there's somebody else in close quarters than when it's one-on-one. So that is a saving grace for them. It's going to make Tyson Broad's life a lot harder if Rogers and Nicole are close enough that they're going side by side and that they are unpredictable for Broad. As we saw all those drivers getting squirrely out of turn 1. These rear tyres are not enjoying this track one bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought the fronts might go on these, but it would depend on the setup. This one is an open setup, so you might have a bit more oversteer to it. It's an interesting one to set up. You can really burn through front tyres if you've got an understeery setup around here. So it'll be interesting to see. They're certainly burning those tyres. I mean, that blood in the water for Tyson Broad is probably the smell of Jack Rogers' rear tyres as he drifts out of each corner. But look at all the different lines they're taking through there. I don't know whether he was wide there. Broad does seem that way, as though it was more of a mistake than anything else. They have broken away from Lawford and Slade behind to a certain extent. Slade right on the back of Lawford still. Lawford will be hoping to try and continue making up positions here, hoping these guys fight ahead, because he is just in range still, with probably 4 laps. Oh, what have we got here? We've got probably 4 laps to go. And they're fighting now. So they're side by side coming in here. We've got Lawford on the inside. He manages to hold on there. Okay. It's sometimes better on the outside, but you've got to be right alongside of that corner. Because if you can hold your nose in there, and that's all you've got to do, then you've got the inside for this corner. It's almost impossible to stay on the outside of that corner. It's just the way it's cambered and how wide it is. It makes it very difficult. This section here, this is by far the tightest and probably trickiest section. Everything else is quite broad corners. No braking markers around this track really either. It's very much a fuel circuit. You can't really see the exit as you're going in for most of these corners. It's just trusting yourself and trusting your car and your tyres as to when you're getting on the throttle.
Yeah, I think it's a circuit that rewards the drivers that are more adaptable and drive more in the moment than driving by rote. Just because it is such a flow circuit, and it's a circuit where if you get a little bit offline, you can really have to change how you take the next corner, because so many of them interlock into each other, rather than being individual corners and different radiuses as well. Always keep it interesting compared to the street circuits, which is 90 degree, which makes it very easy to handle. But Tim Nicole doing a fantastic job handling the pressure in this feature race, finishing 10th in race 1. So that's a better representation of natural speed where you finish in race 1. So he's driving outside of his skin to be here at the dying embers of the feature race with a shot at a victory, and the first feature race victory of the season. But Jack Rogers, he's very close behind him, and what they have done is broken a little bit away from Tyson Broad, who's just not been able to stick with these two the last couple of laps. I don't know whether it was one big mistake, that's why I assume it would be from Broad, but he's actually looking more under pressure from Lawford, Slade and Angus behind him, which is exactly what Nicole and Rogers will want to see, because they are turning it into an exclusive battle up front for 2. Which one is going to be left with the bill at the end of it? We've got a couple more laps to find out. But it just looks like Jack Rogers has got a little bit more pace. He's got a really good run through there. Carries more speed for the midsection of the final 2 corners, but then has to get on the brakes. And it looks like Tim Nicole just carries more speed for the second part. And that's able to give him quite a nice buffer going down the start-finish straight. And Jack Rogers will be too far away for a dive bomb as we start what should be the
penultimate lap, I would say, yeah. Yeah, should be the penultimate lap, I'd say, looking at that time. So this fight as well for these guys back here, look at this. They're just pretty much 3 wide as Angus goes and does a bit of, I'd say grass cutting, but there's not really much grass at Willow Springs. As well, I saw this track was up for sale. Wasn't even that expensive. It was only like $2 or $3 million. So I was just thinking, my God, you could get yourself a townhouse in Sydney or Willow Springs Raceway. But nevertheless, I can't afford a townhouse in Sydney and I can't afford Willow Springs Raceway. Otherwise, we'd get a syndicate in place. But
could have done a whip around with the amount of people that we had in the truck server.
That's true. That's true. We did GoFundMe based on the truck server, and I reckon they could put in about $4.20 each, and would be there. But it does look like this will be the final lap after this. These two fighting tooth and nail. Jack Rogers still on the back of Tim Nicol. Tyson Broad has caught them to a certain extent, but probably not close enough. Neither of them look really close enough just looking at the timing. That's why we're following this battle here, because this is absolutely on, as well as Angus and Maguire behind. Maguire up 9 spots, hard charger of the race, so congratulations to him. But yeah, taking that inside, bit of a wiggle on the outside, same behind for Maguire and Angus. They're going to try and come through here, keep it clean, and they go single file through, but they are losing touch with those cars ahead now as well. As we cut to this front pack here, these front 3, so Tim Nicol has managed to hold on to it at this point. Looks like he's got a healthy enough lead to be able to hold on to it unless he goes on an excursion in the final sector. Jack Rogers fought really hard, but maybe used up a little bit too much tyre as he did, and Tyson Broad's back on the back of these guys, but won't be able to make it count at the end of the day, I don't think. So as Tim Nicol rounds the final corner, he's going to take the win in the feature race here tonight from Jack Rogers, Tyson Broad, followed by Angus Lawford. Jake Slade is trying to make it work on the final straight, but couldn't get past Lawford. These guys eager to finish up and stop by the looks, blocking up on the main straight, but big battle in that mid pack there that Angus Lawford was able to sort of just stay ahead of there. David Christensen up 5 spots into 8th, so a good result from him. Matt Whitaker and Rain Campbell, who I think went on an excursion or two after that earlier incident, which looked like he got pushed wide, comes home for 10th.
And I believe the car that had its engine blow up might have been Will Buchanan.
That makes sense.
Early in the end.
Yeah, that makes sense. And he was fighting pretty strong up there too, so disappointing there for Will. But yeah, very good racing. I reckon Willow Springs always puts on great racing. But yeah, there's often a few incidents here and there as well. Boys kept it pretty clean tonight though, so good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. No real big incidents of note, not multi-car incidents, a couple of occasions people being shoved a bit wide, and plenty of people getting caught out by that tricky final double right-hander and just finding themselves launching into the dirt and off towards the desert, but finding their ways back to the track every time and doing so safely without causing another incident. And we can see the final results of all of that racing. It is Tim Nicol who takes the feature race victory, making the most of a reverse grid pole, with Jack Rogers in 2nd, Tyson Broad in 3rd. Then Angus Lawford finishes 4th, with Jake Slade right on his tail, and Troy Maguire taking the honours for Fishy Motorsports ahead of Michael Angus. Then it is David Christensen in 8th, Matt Whitaker in 9th, and Rain Campbell finishes at the end of the top 10. He will have fancied a better position, but he was one of the unfortunate beneficiaries. Definitely not a beneficiary. One of the unfortunate victims of one of those being pushed wide incidents. Then we've got Adam Lavis in 11th, Mark Horton in 12th, Greg Brooks in 13th, Aidan Cale in 14th in the end. So his race did not pan out the way he would have wanted to. Got caught up in a speeding incident in pit lane, as did Stephen Varga in 15th and Jamie Dyke in 16th. Then it was Will Buchanan, Connor Nixon, Coleman and Kirby all retired from the race. And now we've run through the finishing order for you. We have got some of our drivers joining us in the commentary booth. I'll let Sam take the lead on the interviews as he did such a stellar job in the Super 2s. And we'll start the interviews with third place finisher Tyson Broad.
Well, throw me under the bus there, Liam, while I'm trying to do all this sort of gear, but that's okay. I'm quite happy to do the interview. Tyson, really good race from you tonight there, particularly in that feature. It looked like you might be able to chase them down at the end there. How'd you find it? How'd you find Willow Springs out there tonight?
I found the track a bit annoying to drive, and I'm glad we're done with it. I don't know who picked this track, but yeah, probably not the best one for V8s, let's say. But yeah, it was, in the end, it was more frustrating than anything because I emerged from the pit stop about 4 seconds in front of Tim and then ran wide at the final corner. So without that, I probably would have cruised to a win. But oh well, win some, you lose some, and I've got no one to blame but myself for that.
Yes, well, I'm hearing more and more Willow Springs slander, which I don't accept, but nevertheless, we'll run with it. So, how'd you find it? We had a few guys lock up going into pits tonight. How'd you go in pit lane? I didn't see the pit times, but it seemed like it was okay. What was the strategy there for you?
Yeah, the strategy was more just to try and get in some clear air and punch away at a gap because I felt as I was getting held up in the back. And entering pits, yeah, I thought I'd overdone it and would have got a penalty. But yeah, well, the thing is, I went in about 20 k's over, but the thing is that with iRacing, if you slow down quick enough, you can get away with it. So yeah, got away with that one, probably just though. But yeah, that was all right. And then yeah, just sort of took enough fuel, which in the end was enough to take tyres as well. So
yeah, okay, good. So I guess as we look forward to the rest of the season too, we've got a few tracks on here. Do any of these tickle your fancy a little bit more than Willow Springs did? Phillip Island actually probably has a similar vibe to Willow Springs in some respects, but then a very different one at Circuit Jules Villeneuve.
Phillip Island, to be honest, is actually probably more suited to these cars. So it obviously has been an Aussie track. But yeah, probably most of the schedule is sort of alright and sort of half decent. The only ones I'm looking at with a bit of hesitation is Motegi, which fortunately I won't be able to race that one. And then looking at the rest of them, Magellan's another one which I wasn't looking forward to, but it turns out I can't do that one either. So
oh, well, swings and roundabouts.
yeah, but the rounds that I don't really want to do, I can't do anyway. So it's perfect on that front. But yeah, obviously just sort of gonna rock up when I can and give it a good hack, and yeah, hopefully leads to some good results.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen you in a few races in the gents recently. Is there any other series that you're running? When are we going to see you next?
Probably it's either going to be this or occasionally in GT3s. I don't really think I'd do much else. This season probably doesn't excite me as much in terms of series and nights that they're on as last season did. But yeah, we'll see what this season brings, and then yeah, we'll see what season 2025 brings.
No problem. Well, very good result there, coming in third and sitting on the podium for the feature race. Before I let you go, anyone you want to shout out, any sponsors or anything like that?
Yeah, just the Orbit drop bed boys for what they do. Had quite a few of them in tonight. Connor unfortunately didn't get up to speed with Willow tonight, but he'll be in occasionally in the V8s and what he does in GDs this year, as well as Dylan, who won Super 3 I think tonight. So hopefully we can have him in Super 2 for the remaining few rounds, and then yeah, obviously all our team sponsors.
No problem. All right, well, congratulations. Looks like we've got a full podium in here tonight, which is excellent. So I want to jump to Jack Rogers, if you're there. Great race from you, up 5 spots in that feature. Coming back after a solid performance in the first race as well. You look like you're pushing pretty hard towards the end of that race there to catch Tim. Tell me about that battle.
Yeah, thanks boys. It was definitely a bit of a battle. It's just so hard to pass. Sort of second what Tyson said about the track being probably not best suited to these cars, but made an interesting race, that's for sure.
Yeah, it sure did. So, how did you find? Like, I was watching you, and with you pushing pretty hard, it looked like you were going through rears a little bit. Was that sort of the fall off towards the end why you couldn't pass, or was it just a pace thing?
It's just a pace thing. Like here, it's one thing to be quick enough to stay with the guy ahead of you, but then to have that pace to pass, you'd like the only real passing opportunity is either top of the hill or end of the front straight, and for that you need a good run out of the final corner. So it's just, if you don't get it done early, you're sort of stuck behind for the whole race.
Yeah, true. So I've heard a little bit of Willow Springs slander here already tonight. Are you joining that train, or do you think it's still an okay track for these cars?
I'm definitely joining the Willow Springs slander chain.
Oh well, it's easy for me to say from the commentary booth when you could go 4 wide on a straight, but nevertheless. I guess what's the plan for the rest of the season? Is I guess with Hobbo not in this season, it opens up the possibilities for who might be able to take out the top spot. Is that sort of on your agenda, or are you just in it for fun?
To be honest, it wasn't to begin with. I thought we'd see a lot more of the big names turn up, but a bit of a quiet lobby, I thought. It's definitely on the agenda now. I think I should be leading the championship after this round. My main focus this series was Porsche Cup, but looks like I'll be doing a bit more V8s.
Yeah, okay, so we'll see you in Porsche Cup tomorrow then, will we?
Sure will.
Oh, okay, well that's good stuff. I'll see you out there. I'll be wobbling around. The Porsches are relatively new for me. Yeah, Greg, I agree. So much hate for this track. Why? Accept the challenge. I'm on board with you, Greg. But nevertheless. So, I guess, what about with setups? So, it's a bit of an interesting track on that front. Like, you've got a lot of those really long corners where you can, I guess, consider a bit more downforce. But if you do, you're going to be scrubbing your fronts a bit more. What way did you go tonight?
To be honest, I just went with the basic Willow Springs setup straight from the iRacing folder. I tried a couple different custom setups and nothing seemed to work pretty well, and went back to old plain and simple, and I found it was the most comfortable and got me through. So yeah, it's definitely had to focus on keeping your rears nice and in a window. If you overheated your rears, you're screwed. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, second place in that feature, and yeah, probably right up there in that championship points. Anyone you want to shout out before we jump over to the feature race winner?
I'm a privateer, so not really. All the sponsors are on my car are just my mates' companies. So I guess BLWR Paintworks and Core Staff is sort of the main two. So yeah, thanks guys. Congrats to Tim as well.
Wonderful, thank you. So, Tim Nicol managed to hold off hard-charging Jack Rogers towards the end there. Didn't look super easy, but ended up being able to pull out just enough that you were relatively comfortable on that final lap. How's the race? I've got you muted, so I don't know if you need to push to talk or... We're getting close here. It's unmuted.
Still can't hear you if you're talking.
Well, now we're muted again. We're going backwards. But nevertheless, strong race. Pretty strong strategy in the end. Actually, one of the shortest pit lane times, if not the shortest there, at a 9.22 second pit lane time, which probably deeply helped with the guys around doing a 10.3, a 10.07, 11.58 for Lawford, and obviously those guys that ended up doing 50-second pit lane times. That was no good. Yeah, walk us through if I've got you there.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks Sam. Sorry about that technical. I actually didn't have a push to talk button on my steering wheel, believe it or not. But yeah, no, just recapping on your first question, how was the race? I did a Tyson in the heat. So I bombed out coming onto the main straight. And I'd seen a few cars in front of me do the same thing, and I was like, don't do it. And then next one, I just had a 47-year-old brain fade and missed my brake marker. And then realised I was just in front of my teammate Varga, and I was in 10th. So I was like, shit, I'm in P1 for the feature. So yeah, into the feature, tricky to have that bit of pressure. I know how fast Tyson is and some of these other boys, so just had to try and keep my cool. Jack nearly got me. I had a big moment coming onto the front straight with about, I don't know, maybe 6 laps to go or something like that, and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna be done here, but just emulate what Jack said, just got to keep those tyres cool. The front left and rear left just get absolutely hammered on this track.
Yeah, they absolutely do. I guess, how did you find it? Because you say you missed your braking marker. One thing about Willow Springs is there are pretty much no braking markers. Are you looking, I think what I do is I'm usually looking for cracks in the road or slight discolorations to try and get a marker. Is that what you do as well, or are you doing it off fuel?
That last, that I don't know, is it 3 right-handers in a row, the last turn? For me, it's actually braking in between the last 2 apexes and shifting down a couple of gears. But what I did in the heat, I was leaving it in a too tall a gear, and it was just pushing too hard. And then I realised halfway through the feature, just knock it down a gear and drive through it with more control, and that seemed to pay off. But yeah, it is a tricky track for brake markers. There are a few bits of discoloured bitumen that you can follow. There's a line up the top of the hill there you can brake at. But yeah, apart from that, I've raced here once before, and I just tried to reflect on what I did that time and do the same.
So reflecting on that, are we going to get 3 for 3 having a go at Willow Springs tonight, or now that you've had a win, we're a bit more pro Willow Springs?
I've always been 50-50 on Willow, due to that. I've raced here before and didn't have a very good result because of what I did in the heat. And I when we knew we were coming back here, I was like, oh, just do not do that again. And then I did it in the heat, and I was just like, I hate this track. But hey, when you can take a win in the feature, there's a little bit of love there for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And hello to you, John from Bali. That's good. I'll be happy to see you out in round 2. We're looking forward to it. Well, yeah. So, what's your plans for the rest of the season? Then we've got some pretty good tracks coming up. It does seem like there is a bit of an open door as to who might be able to take home this championship this season. Is that on your agenda?
Oh, look, this will be my 3rd season with Gentleman Sim Racing, coming from obviously the 2014 Legacy car. Knowing some of the big names that they're actually coming into this split, I'm here for the fun and experience. If I can get a top 10 or a top 5, I'm happy. A win, like, I'm blown away tonight. I'm looking forward to doing my little post that I put out on social media about a win and celebrate with the team. But yeah, I think just have a crack. I did have a look at maybe some formula stuff with GSR. So doing something totally different, because my calendar is consumed with this Gen supercar. So yeah, maybe time to do something a little bit different.
Yeah, so you're a bit of supercar specialist, are you? Are you doing like scops and that sort of thing, or where else are you spending your time in the sim?
I spend a majority of my time, as a lot of these young bucks would say, in the old farts league, which is the V8 veterans, on a Thursday night. So Vargs and I are in split 1 in that, obviously battling it out with the Fishy Boys and a few of the other teams. So the pressure's on there to do well. Those boys don't hold back. It's a fixed set league, so everyone's on a fair playing field. So a lot of practice goes into a 10th here and a 10th there to to try and qualify well, because the mix of the drivers in the splits is quite varied. So you want to get yourself up as far as you can to the front to try and have a good race. But yeah, and a little bit of help with the team and some other bits and pieces with some leagues that I'm helping out with. So yeah, that work and family, yeah, it's enough.
Yeah, fair enough. So, but we might see you on Tuesday nights in the Intro Formula SFLs, we reckon then.
Yeah, I definitely want to have a go at something different. Not expecting to be competitive, but be happy to jump in and have a go. Learn something different and try and spark the brain matter a bit. And although the supercars are a handful to drive, it is nice to drive something else. I was driving a safety car in another league for a while with a new GT3 Mustang, which is more than a handful at some tracks. But yeah, it's nice to be in something different for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations on that race win in the feature tonight. It was well managed, and you're able to hold off some pretty hard charges. Anyone else we want to shout out or anything before we sign off for the night?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Thanks to you guys. Thanks to the league. Congrats to the podium, Jack and Tyson. And obviously a big shout out to my team, Condon Pecky's Racing, Troy and the boys. And for this week, you didn't ask me about setups, but Greg Favell is the man. So Mark Horton and Vargs and I were sharing a setup. It paid off. So well, thanks, Greg.
You got a Greg Favell setup. Oh, don't worry, that makes sense now.
Yes, it does. So didn't like it at first, but went back to a couple of old ones, and yeah, they were a bit flat and they weren't turning in. And I know they were set up for a hot track, but yeah, Greg, so I chucked that in, dropped the fuel, and I went, oh yeah, this has got some pace. So yeah, thanks, Greg.
Absolutely. And I've just been informed by Jaden Green that Race 1 Podium has decided to join us. I thought I was going to get an early minute and get some dinner, but nevertheless, we have some other people to have a chat to. So, Jakey Slade, walk us through the night. Obviously, pretty strong. You had a very strong showing in that first race. Weren't able to make it back up in the second one. Walk us through it. Or have we got another push to talk issue to run through? Or maybe we do. Well, in the meantime, Angus, do you want to walk through what happened to you? No one wants to talk to me tonight. Many guys in the comms box, but unfortunately they're silent. I guess while they wet themselves out, it's probably worth us having a bit of a look and see what. I'm all good. Oi, here we go. So Angus, walk us through what happened to you in the race. Well, I have got to have a quick look and see what happened in Super 3 as well. See if I can find those results.
I managed to get a really good jump off the line on race 1, and from there it was just try to maintain my pace and go from there. And race 2, managed to get sort of stuck in a few battles that didn't do me tyres too well. Did a good pit stop, but managed to get straight in behind multiple people battling. It probably would have preferred it to be coming up onto guys ahead of me like one by one, but sometimes you got to sit back and make sure you hit your marks and try to make the most of it. But yeah, just had no front tyres at the end of that race, so couldn't capitalise for another podium.
Yeah, okay. So with the front tyres, do you think that's pushing too hard, or the setup was set a bit too front heavy?
Nah, there was I had a lock up when everyone came out of the pits the next lap. I got a bit close to rear-ending one of them, so I had to lock them up a little bit and make sure I didn't cause an incident. And from that point on, I already had a bit of tyre deg, so I was like, oh no. From there, I was just trying to manage it.
Yeah, okay. So then as well, I guess, and it brings us to, I guess, an interesting point. We've got this interesting bunch up front, probably none of which deeply ahead on pace at this point. Are you in for the rest of the season, or are you a one race hero?
No, I'll be here for another full season. Sticking with it, so yeah.
Yeah, and the same question I have asked everyone tonight until I get the answer I'm looking for. What do we think of Willow Springs?
I don't mind it. It's very flowy, and once you sort of get the rhythm to it, it's not too bad.
Oh, that's the best response I've had so far. So like I'll take that. I'm relatively happy with that. Anyone else you want to shout out before we jump over to Jake Slade if he's worked out his microphone?
Yeah, I got it.
Lovely.
I'd just like to thank Project 36 and our sponsors, simrigs.com, Shockworks, Cataclysm, as well as Quokka mouse pads, and what was the last one? I'm pretty sure I got them. Anyway.
I always do this too.
I'll probably get a griller for that one as well.
I always do this too. I'm fumbling around the Vermilion Discord trying to work out what the sponsors are at the end of a broadcast.
Forged.
There you go, CC Forged. Well, congratulations, and I'm looking forward to seeing you out next week.
No worries, guys. Have a good one. And thanks for you guys.
No problem. And Slady, good night from you as well. Bit of a pack battle out there in that second race, but across both. How'd you find it?
Yeah, it was good. It was just a matter of trying to manage the tyre. Obviously, the sets around this track to get pace out of them, you've got to have quite an aggressive alignment. So yeah, the tyres get quite hot. Yeah, it was good. The first race, sort of just tried to get in a groove and stick there and just kept looking at Angus's backside. It was rather nice to look at.
Oh, rather nice to look at. Well, I'm glad you could get some pleasure out of that tonight. I usually prefer not to look at the backside of a car for too long, but yeah, when you were sort of sitting behind, were you really wanting to push past, or were you going, well, this is going to heat up my tyres, I'm going to use too much fuel?
I sort of figured I was probably a little bit too far back in such a short race to really push, because yeah, it would have just killed the tyres by the time I got to him. So I kind of shot myself in the foot at the start of the race by letting it get there. But I knew he was sort of holding back as well, managing tyres. So I knew that if I did push, he was just going to put his foot down as well. So I was pretty happy just to stay where I was. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it's good. And Willow Springs, and just so you know, the correct answer is yes, it's a brilliant track. What do you think of Willow Springs?
Honestly, I only bought the track like a day or two ago, so it's a bit of a learning curve. It's very interesting in these cars, but it is actually quite fun, I've found. As Angus said, it just flows. If you get out of the groove and make some corrections mid-corner, then it sort of screws you for a few more, and then your lap's kaput, and then you're pretty much overdrive from there trying to catch up. But if you just get in the nice smooth rhythm, it's usually pretty good.
Yeah, okay. So you're one of the guys that does a bit of work and spends a lot of time on setups and that sort of thing beforehand, or are you a bit of a jump-in hero?
I used to do my own sets, but back in my old team I used to do my own sets. But this team I've been graced with some rather nice ones, so just sort of get in and get some seat time and just get used to it and just try and find the pace in it, really. Brilliant.
Well, anyone else you want to shout out before we start signing off?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the sponsors for Revolution e-racing, AITT, Sud Speed, Kibby, IR Sidekick, Bunnies Builds, and Shaw by 4. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do and do it so successfully.
Wonderful. And speaking of Revolution e-racing, it looks like Brooksy's decided to join the chat as well. Brooksy, you join us. I'm seeing Pro Willow Springs chat in the messages. Want to fill us in on what we thought of tonight?
Oh well, it was a mixed bag for me, Sam. It was I had a terrible race, but I enjoyed the track, so I enjoy the challenge, even though it's not typically what you'd call a V8 supercar track. I had a great time. It's I welcome any track that we can have a run around in, unless it's so narrow that you can't see what's going on. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Good. So, now is this your first time around in Super 2s as well? Were you upgraded from Super 3s, or were you in Super 2s last season?
So when V8 Supercars started with the 2014 cars, I upgraded to Super 2, and then last season I continued on in Super 2, but then dropped to Super 3 because I was quite a bit slower. And then things picked up a bit in Super 3, so apparently they just deemed that I was fast enough to be back up in the Super 2 group again.
Yeah, okay. So how do you find the competition between the two? Is there one you enjoy racing in more, or are they both they're both good, but you're just in different positions?
Well, they're both good racing. I enjoyed the Super 3 more, obviously, because I was more competitive. I was up the front often, battling with really good drivers in that category. But yeah, they both have really good drivers and really good hard racing. Obviously, little incidents come in, but it doesn't really matter. Look, it's racing, bit of bump and run. That's life, right? So yeah, I enjoy both series. I just seem to be more comfortable in the Super 3s, but hey, that's life. Yeah, you learn a lot from being the slow guy at the back of the higher group. Maybe you learn a bit more and just work with what you got, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you have any sort of strategy plays tonight, or was it just sort of you found yourself in mischief here and there, and we're just trying to get through?
Well, in the practice session, so Jake and I and we even had Angus come and join our sessions a few times, and like those boys were doing really well in like the 14s, relatively frequently. I was probably doing mid 15s every now and then in a full stint. So I thought, I might do alright here, and jump in the practice session, and the car, I just didn't fit. I didn't sit well with the car. I wasn't comfortable. I don't have a fancy rig like many people do. I've got my gaming chair and everything sits on the floor or on the bench. So adjusting seating position and all that sort of stuff, it's a constant. It's an ever flowing thing. So I just didn't feel right. Hey, so I was like, this isn't good, and I'm sliding all over the place. And yeah, I started a bit further up the back and just couldn't really get past anyone. And I think I just pushed the car too much and just roasted me tyres and sat at the back and just cut laps for a while.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, well, no, good to see you out there. What else are you running this season? Are you jumping in anything tomorrow?
Usually I try and jump in Porsche Cup and some GT3s, but I've been enjoying V8 Supercars so much. I've wanted to really focus on supercars only because I'm not a whip with different series. So if I stick with one, I'll probably do better in that rather than swapping between them.
Yeah, it does make it hard, particularly on the one night. It can make it a bit difficult, but it's a challenge in itself. It's actually a pretty unique challenge that the gents offer with that, is that you can do a couple of series in one night if you choose to. Now, were you in the NasTrucks earlier, or did you give that a miss?
Oh, heck no. I stayed away from that one. That was just watching it looked like carnage, and I thought, you know what? Nah, I'm good, hey.
Yeah, 60 cars, one server. Haven't done the tracks before. I'm not surprised there was a bit of mishap, but it was carnage in the first couple of laps, but then it sort of it evened out from there and it was okay. But yeah, unsurprising that when they were bunched up in those first couple of laps, it was a bit of mayhem. So well, congratulations to you. I'll probably if you jump in the Porsche Cup tomorrow night, I'll see you there. Any shout outs before we jump off?
Oh, a big shout out to all the race winners tonight. That was a tough race with all the heat and everything. So well done. Definite shout out to our boy Jake. Proud to have him on the team, and he's already showing good pace and showing our colours on the track. So yeah, big shout out to him, and thanks to our sponsors. AITT, great bunch. They've been really supportive of us the last few weeks as we've being a new team, they've been really helpful. And Kibby and Sudspeed. It's great to have a partnership with Sudspeed as well, getting those sim gloves.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for that, Brooksy, and we'll see you out there next time.
Champion, thanks Sam. Catch you, mate.
No worries. Well, there's probably a couple more things to go through before we sign off. Number one being what happened in the Super 3s. So, if we look at that, the Heat 1 was won by Dylan Walker, followed by Ben Woods and Chuk Funk Wong making up the podium. And that feature race was also Dylan Walker, followed by Fitzroy Beaumont and Dan Sneddon in third place. So Dylan Walker may be getting a walk up to Super 2s. We'll see what happens with that. Obviously, massive thank you to all of the GSRC sponsors that allow us to put this on. So merch.tgsric is the merch store for the Gentleman Sim Racing Club. That is the key sponsor for the Super 2 and Super 3 series. So go get yourself some merch. There's great stuff on there. And it helps support the club and keep us going. Our major sponsor for the club, Sprayton Cider, that sponsor 2 series, and that they're our club main sponsor. They're a great Tassie company that makes ciders down there, so go get yourself one of those. Orbic as well, Matto's come on board and sponsoring the trucks with 60 attendees tonight, so a completely full server. There were people that couldn't get in, which we were absolutely shocked by. We've seen a lot of growth in the club, but to get a full server in the ovals is massive. Rest of the club sponsors, Waste Options, that look after our GT3 series and have been a strong option, a strong supporter of the club for a long time, along with Orbic, M-Wave, Flash Graphics, and as well Josh Zuno's company, as well, that's come in for the Super Formula Lights, JJZ. So thank you to all of them. Thank you as well to you, Liam, for ruining your vocal cords tonight with me on what was a frantic first race, and at least it quietened down a little bit for that Supercars race, but it was still all systems go.
Oh, it was an absolute pleasure to wreck my voice alongside you. It was already on the way after some stuff I did on Monday, so yeah, it needs a bit of a rest for tonight. But I couldn't get a rest while the racing was on, because the racing was absolutely spectacular, and I can't wait to do it again with you next Wednesday. And what tracks will we be going to next Wednesday? Now,
that's a good question. Give me a tick, I'll work out I haven't got a list up in front of me. Just give me 2 secs. I'll give you what we have coming up for the next period of time. So, I mean, obviously tomorrow we're back at Willow Springs in the GT4, so I'm very excited about that. That's I think I'll find a few races in the GT4 around Willow Springs, so hopefully we can back that up. But the little Porsche that could might have a bit of competition this time, because the GSRC BOP has been dropped, and that did sort of make up for some of its power deficit. So we'll see what happens with that. That's very exciting. We've got the Porsche Cup at Sebring tomorrow, which will be a great race. Both of those broadcast by Zach and Daniel, the usual team for Thursdays. But yeah, 60-minute race around Sebring. There in the Porsche Cup cars, sprint races in the GT4s. We'll have the first round of the Radical SR8s replacing our IndyCar series on Friday, the Downforce Legends. They'll be at Summit Point, so be interested to see what comes around there. We've got 4 days of broadcast this season. Joe Baldwin and Nick Fodiatis will be on the pots and pans for that one, so looking forward to that immensely. Our Mountain Men series has the Formula Renault 2.0 at always at Bathurst on the Saturday night. A bit more of a fun series to stick your teeth into. And then we're back to Monday, so we'll be looking at the LMP2 challenge. So that's the one that I've put the tracks together for. So that's at Spa. I can only make every second one of those at the moment, but I can make that one. So looking forward to that one. And the Indianapolis road course for the GT3s. Intro Formula will be at Circuit de Navarra in the Skippy, wonderful car, on Tuesday as the entree, followed by the JJZ Constructors Super Formula Lights from Sebring on the second race for Tuesday, and then we're back to us again. So got the Orbic NASCAR Truck Series. Now I think Joe may have already changed which one it is. So we've got the Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park planned for that one. We'll have to work out how we manage it given the number of attendees. I don't think we'll probably do splits being an entree, but we'll just have to see how that all pans out in the end, because we've had just so much demand for that series. I'm really looking forward to it next week, followed by Phillip Island, an absolute classic in the Super 2 V8 Challenge. We'll be following the Super 3s there next week. It is a 40-minute race rather than the sprints we got tonight, Liam.
Yes, it certainly is. So back to the traditional format for the Super 2s next weekend, but we'll be broadcasting the Super 3s because we like to bring you a range of broadcasts across the two splits, because we're not a club that is focused on just the best of the best. We like to give everyone opportunity to have the fun of being able to broadcast the race and perhaps get a much desired victory on YouTube, so you can share it with your friends, your family, and anybody that will bear you listening. Will bear you sending them unsolicited YouTube links, just like how I sent the YouTube link of my overtake for the win a few weeks ago to all of my work friends, and like, oh, you do sim racing? You never told us. Which was of course sarcasm, because I mentioned it all the time. Anyway,
and they glaze over, right? Oh, he's talking about sim racing again. That's what I get.
Yeah. They do a bit. There's some that like it, so I get some people genuine, but they also have to put it with me talking about golf, so they're not very lucky. But thankfully, you that are watching tonight haven't had to do that. You get to watch some brilliant racing with myself and Sam. I hope you've enjoyed watching it with us tonight as much as we've enjoyed bringing you the broadcast. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors for allowing us to put on this broadcast. We've already run through them, so we won't run through them again. But even bigger thank you to you for watching this and lending credence to the desire to broadcast all of our races. Until we see you next time, it's a good night from me and from the rest of the GSRC.
Cheers, and we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching.